As usual, I have a overflowing cornucopia of critical news, incredible clips, amazing guest, in-studio guest, you name it. But the first thing we need to just point out here is, this is CNBC's headline: AI will be billions of times smarter than humans, and man needs to merge with it, experts say at the World Government Summit hosted in Dubai with CNBC. And that the agreement, the consensus is humanity's over, and we need to decide how we're going to merge with machines. That is the total globalist takeover plan that I've been warning you about for 20+ years, that the media attacks me for daily. They try to ban us for, but there are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, who could get over this headline? Vatican, China, is the best example of church's social doctrine. Beijing defends human dignity, bishop says, and the Pope's gone on to second that. Conservative Catholics are expressing shock at Pope Francis's zeal and embracing the totalitarian government of China. Think about that. China has killed more of its people than anybody else in history. Everybody puts down the Chinese being used on the railroad in Western expansion. It's true. Chinese merchants would bring the Chinese in slave cages and signed contracts with companies to let the women be prostitutes until they died, you name it. And today they sell Buddhists, Christians organs. It's a total totalitarian regime, but the Pope says it's great. Now, that's just 2 articles. So world government's here, World Government Summit. We're going to get rid of you. Communism's great. The Vatican's totally captured by the globalists. Just think about how insane. I told you there'd be a Pope 10 years ago that would endorse communism and say China is the best to its people. It's all about a sick joke. It's like he's got 200-foot walls, but he says let more Islamists in and let them rape and kill everybody. And meanwhile, his deputy's a pedophile and all this other stuff happens. I mean, this is some sick people. Meanwhile, Obama's artist portrays white girl beheaded by empowered black woman. Imagine if Trump had a painter, had a portraiture who on the side jobs knowingly painted images of empowered black women. There's several images of these cutting women's heads off. In fact, the article we have only has one of them, but you can pull up. Here it is. The royalty of the black woman is only expressed by chopping white women's heads off. And the guy also paints sperm all over the paintings. I'm not kidding. You can't make this up. So that's the type of mental illness we've got operating here, and the type of true anti-human degeneracy being pushed by the globalists to cause total divide and conquer. Meanwhile, Yellowstone eruption, supervolcano under strain. Experts find magma chamber pressure increasing, and that is going to dial into some other big stories we've got along those lines. Bill Gates is calling for censorship against the internet, what he calls hate speech, and so is the head of Unilever, telling YouTube and others, if you don't start censoring libertarians and conservatives, we're going to pull our money. Doesn't mean don't run our ads on their shows. Just get rid of them, period. So the authoritarianism is truly metastasizing as humanity awakens from its slumber to this serious threat. Speaking of that, nationalism sweeps Costa Rica. Christian preacher shocks presidential election. We're going to be getting into that versus the hell on earth that is Venezuela, as that descends from anarchy into total and complete barbarism. And also, North Korea threatens more electromagnetic pulse attacks on the West. And I've gotten a lot of shocking contacts from our military contacts, but what they're being briefed on and what they're being told about the end of March into early April, and the fact that they think North Korea may test more missiles or even attack Japan or Seoul, South Korea after the games. So that is definitely being put out there by the Pentagon for anybody that will listen. So it's all coming up in an incredibly important transmission. Oh, and some other key little goodies there. They're going to ban best friends in public schools. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday, the 13th day already of February 2018. We're going to be live here for the next 4 hours, and there's the War Room with Owen Schroyer, and Roger Stone will be in studio coming up today as well. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Coming up, the Pope has said that Communist China embodies human dignity and taking care of little people. That's like saying Adolf Hitler embodies Jews living long, healthy lives. But it's all about breaking your will, totally confusing you, and demoralizing you. The globalists, with their doctrine of communism, have totally captured the Vatican using child sex rings and blackmail, which has all been in the news. Meanwhile, Obama's artist portrays white girl beheaded by empowered black woman. It doesn't just show that she's painted hundreds of these paintings, or this individual has, showing the royalty of a black woman is to kill white people, is the quote. To show the total embodiment of this is critical. Again, our article only posted a few of these. If you go to the Wrap, they've got a whole bunch of these with the evil white women having their heads chopped off. So that is all going to be coming up in the next segment when I line all that up and get that ready to show you. So I want to show you the full horror of this. Again, imagine if President Trump or anybody else had a person they hired to be their painter who paints images of white people murdering black people. But this is all about hyping up the total racism and total racial division, knowing that it was whites and Westerners and Christians that tried to end slavery globally. So we have that guilt complex. We will submit then to people being trained to openly kill us. So this is the total Hollywood war. That's why they've got Black Panther coming out. A Germany Afghan migrant killed woman in front of her kids because she converted to Christianity. Sessions invokes Anglo-American heritage of sheriff's office. They call it some type of Nazi code word. That's in the Supreme Court rulings. And it's like saying Judeo-Christian, because the Old Testament's Judaic and the New Testament is the New Testament. It is that's what it's called in jurisprudence. That's where it came from. It's just like saying the Romantic languages come out of Rome. It's just a simple scientific word, a term. But see, they don't care, because it's all about waging war on reality, waging war on communication. Now, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, that's just some of what's coming up. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, going to get into open calls for world government at the World Government Summit. But again, we're kooks and crazy. World government does not exist at all. But the first thing I want to air is a little special report. The illusion of globalism is beginning to fade. I want to air that report. The illusion of globalism is beginning to phase before we run through all of this incredibly important information for you here today. And I have huge news on the North Korean front as well. But first, here's this report. The illusion of globalism is beginning to fade. And once you've taken your blinders off, or you could reverse that and said, taken the sunglasses that the establishment doesn't want you to wear and put them on like they live, you then see for yourself that you've been lied to over and over again by so-called mainstream media that's simply bought and paid for by multinational interests that have conquered this country. And it doesn't mean that when you support Infowars or President Trump or nationalism or free market capitalism that you think you're perfect or you think we're perfect. But we know it works 1,000 times better and is what builds big, open, free, wealthy societies. Now, that creates the byproduct of decadence, so that's certainly a real issue. But globalists like George Soros that have been openly bragging that they are funding, trying to keep the EU in control of countries that never voted to enter it, like the UK, the fact that he's so brazen and so out in the open only will accelerate the planetary awakening to their tyranny.
With another 280 North Koreans crossing the border, soon all eyes will be on one member of the delegation. Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, will become the first member of the Kim ruling family to set foot in the country.
It's the sister of Kim Jong-un, the bloodthirsty dictator who's constantly threatening to nuke the U.S. and all this. And so they're there as part of a, quote, peace delegation, because Trump's put pressure on them. For the first time ever, a member of the ruling communist royal house, communism is always royal, it's a new form of royalty. It's the first time they've come to the table because they understand how much trouble they're in. NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN all praised her and said she was glaring at Pence, and liberals said, oh, we hope she attacks Pence, and oh, she's so sexy, oh, she's so beautiful. And then when it blew up in their face, they began to remove the video. Look at this, Kim Jong-un's sister stealing the show at the Winter Olympics. Oh my gosh. They keep more than half their population in slave camps, and they admit that they, quote, take babies like you take a chicken's eggs at birth, so they're not loyal to the family. Millions die every couple of years. They torture people to death like no one's ever seen. And our media, I remember Lester Holt.
Kate, we traveled about 4 hours east of Pyongyang to visit a ski resort that has significance in the recent talks we've been watching between the North and South over the Winter Olympics. This, we're told, is a place where athletes from the North and South will be training together. We were also invited here, I would suspect, because it is not what people expect to see in North Korea. A modern ski resort. It's got patriotic music and videos playing from a screen here, and a lot of families out enjoying themselves. We've spoken to some of those families, people expressing a sense of optimism that the two countries are speaking together, a sense of pride that they will be competing together in the Winter Olympics, and also some expressing a sense of greater security, given a chance to ratchet down some of the tensions.
Now, you could not support a worse regime living on the planet. Stalin and Hitler were as bad or worse. Per capita even killed more people, but probably not even as psychotically ridiculous. I mean, the North Koreans are under total slavery.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
You know, I tempted fate. Last week I talked about how I hadn't had really a fever or been sick other than allergies in about 8 years. And so sure enough, I got a fever last night. And it's gone away, but I am, if you're watching me on television, you can see I'm sweating a little bit. I bundled up last night, let the fever go up to about 103. And that's what fevers do. They get rid of bacteria, viruses, whatever the issues are. And so I'm pretty much out of the woods, thank God, compared to everybody else has had. But that's tempting fate for you. You know, some of these stories I've got here are so big that I really don't even feel like I'm doing a good enough job just mentioning these bombshell reports. But they all tie together, and we're going to break it all down here today. But let me just roll some of the footage I mentioned of what they want banned, and that is when Pence wasn't cheering the North Koreans, and then when the North Korean dictator's sister wasn't cheering the Americans. And our leftist media like Whoopi Goldberg and everybody else have said, how dare Pence do this, and just groveled. But see, there she is, not clapping when he was clapping there, actually, for the Japanese. So Pence was clapping for the Japanese there, as I've seen the wider shot. The Japanese president's holding up his Japanese flag. And so that's how they're acting. But our media only ran with Pence not clapping to say, oh, see how horrible Pence is. I mean, the North Koreans are a complete cult of evil, complete narcissistic mental patient evil, suppressing their own population. So there's the footage that NBC has been so desperate to pull after people saw it. But we have a right to show it. We have a right to document it. We have a right to detail it under classic fair use to analyze what's really happening. All right, when we come back, I'm going to get into how they're planning to demoralize us, their master plan, and all this leftist media pushing the idea of murdering white people and how cool it is. And we'll also get to that Vice piece I mentioned where they have these vacation spots free of white people. This is what the left and Hollywood are pushing, and they're successfully dividing our culture to make us slaves. We're back live, ladies and gentlemen, and all of this ties together. All the things we're facing, all the different things we're dealing with. And the big question is, can humans deal with the technology and the systems that we have and the systems that we're developing? Because if you look at what the social engineers are doing and what their internal white papers admit that they are up to, it is a admitted diabolical plan to bring in a one-world government, to dumb the public down, and to make life so unhappy and so miserable that we accept plugging into virtual reality and basically give up our consciousness and agree to be merged with machines, believing that we're going to be given eternal life, but really you're being executed when you give your body up, and the AI computer will just be able to basically fool you and fool your loved ones and fool others that are conversing with it, that it really is the person that's gone on to merge with their silicon gods. This is the admitted plan. And they've got all these viral videos out of Boston Dynamics robots opening doors for each other. Merkel Thalen's written about that today for Infowars.com. But the real plan being pushed by the World Government Summit in Dubai this year is that humans will have to merge with machines, and that you will not be given a choice, and that humans as we know it are over. And again, that decision has been made to do that to you and your family. And to make the world so ugly and so out of control, they turn everything upside down. They have Hollywood attacking the family. They have Hollywood attacking the relationships of men and women. They have the social engineers, the Jesuit Pope, Francis, who got into power, again, using blackmail against the other Pope for reported pedophilia within the Catholic Church. His deputy gets busted trafficking 100 children. He says last week, shut it down, don't talk about it. I mean, these are monsters, ladies and gentlemen. He comes out and says China's the best example of church's social doctrine. I know I've already mentioned this 3 times today. It's so big. Pope Francis' zeal in embracing a totalitarian government of China by first agreeing to replacing underground church leaders with state-chosen hacks, and now with a top Vatican official saying those who best realize the social doctrine of the church are the Chinese, and that the Chinese communists have done amazing jobs for the church. That's how they plan on making it so ugly you'll go ahead and merge with AI. And then what did Sean Parker talk about last year, the former head of Facebook? What did other executives at Facebook this year come out and say? We did this to make you alone, to lower your IQ, and to make you depressed, and we have bots and fake people that nudge and control you socially into the worldview we want for control, and we admit this is immoral and bad. And that's why, here's NBC, New York. I have another one here, CBS News, New York. No more best friends. Some schools consider banning best friends. It goes on to say, this is all happening, it's just happening in Europe, happening all over. It's a global movement. Rumored to have first started in Prince George's South London School, Tavistock Institute. The push for breakup best friends is catching on, says clinical psychologist Dr. Barbara Greenberg. Yeah. Don't want to have people you actually count on. Just to kind of have a bunch of friends you don't really know. There has been a movement in some American schools and European schools to ban the phrase best friend. Oh, see, banning words. It's not just Nazi words. Greenberg said the idea of banning the phrase best friends is a very intriguing social experiment. Oh, you're in a social experiment, see? They want you totally alone. They want your soul. They want you under the screen sickness. Totally alone, disassociative, like a sociopath or a psychopath, but artificially unable to communicate or interface with other people or to ever really just pay attention to what people are saying. The attention spans are now less than a goldfish in the Western world. That's on record. People can't remember stuff 10 seconds to the next 10 seconds. Prisoners designed by the psych warfare chiefs with TV in the last 70 years, lowering the attention span so that people can't even put 2 and 2 together. And so you can have all the liberal leaders and all the different national black leaders and people calling for race war, and have President Obama's painter who did his portrait showing white women's heads cut off and saying it's part of the black royalty, the black royalty of a black woman to have an arrogant, insolent face with white women's heads cut off. That's what he paints. This is the total mental illness. We're going to cover that again, as I said, coming up in the next segment with the Vice clips about vacationing away from whites, and then it's like whites aren't human. They shouldn't be allowed to travel or live. Where are they getting this? From the universities, from the big banks, with their agenda to totally make society and culture dysfunctional. And then if you try to counter it, Democrat corporation pressures YouTube to censor content or else, including Infowars. And that ties into Bill Gates says that they need to censor off the, quote, hate news. When this is pro-love news exposing the globalists and trying to fight for our humanity. Now, we're going to go to break, and when I come back, we're going to get into the screen sickness. We're going to get into the AI takeover. We're going to get into how we can stop it by waking people up across the board. And another way you can stop it is spreading the videos and the articles from this show. They're fighting every way they can to stop you. I got a whole bunch of messages here, and I'll show you some coming up where people said that they no longer get our YouTube feed and their subscription. They no longer get the Facebook feed and their subscription. They got to go to the site to find it every day. They got to go to Facebook, my own page, or YouTube to find it. And that's all part of the incremental censorship that internal documents and hidden cameras from Project Veritas have shown. So again, we know what they don't want getting out. Let's get it out. And we also need your financial support, and we got great products you need, so it's a win-win. If you just commit to sign up for AutoShip, get an additional 10% off. We have the Infowars Life Daily Digestive Pack with the Carnivore for helping digest meat and fats better and absorbing it better and getting better nutrients, having a healthier gut. And Flora Life, 15 billion live active cultures of the highest quality strains, great for your gut. That's 50% off. For a limited time. That special is about to end. Also introducing Icarin for the liver and the kidneys with the strongest milk thistle extract, 600 mg, N-acetylcysteine, and so much more. That's 50% off our newest product. Limited time sales got to end very soon on Cell Force. It's going to be called DNA Force Plus. More CoQ10, more BioPQQ of the highest quality. That's 53% off right now. You cannot beat that deal, but it is about to end. And don't forget, you get 5% off on everything on top of it, on every purchase with Patriot points at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. You built the Infowar. We salute you for doing it. Please help us expand in the face of the enemy, because there is no contraction. We've got to expand. The scientific destabilization of civilization, preparing the planet for an AI takeover. That is the publicly admitted world government plan, CNBC now reporting.
That implanting things in your brain is beyond the creepy line.
Take your destiny in your hands and don't let these people control your future.
Initialize my modem.
I've got one that can see.
Oh, now come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Open up your hate and let everyone make. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You must not get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence in Candy Crush during the State of the Union address.
Oh, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Open up your hate and then open the make. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You must not get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You fuck, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Madness has now come up on me.
You know the way.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
The admitted plan is a scientific breakaway AI civilization that is destabilizing the current human-based civilization ahead of the AI takeover. Now, I've been retrospective quite a bit lately, and I've been thinking about what have I not done a good job on. And it's going back to Endgame that I made 11 years ago and to other reports where we laid out exactly the plan, word for word, what is in CNBC today from Dubai at the World Government Summit with top world leaders and top tech company execs and top futurists saying humanity will be obsolete within 30 years. We will merge with machines and everyone else will be exterminated. Now, that is the plan. Oh, but just last year, the New York Times said, what is globalism? The thing Alex Jones made up. And it was a huge article saying globalism doesn't exist and Jones is insane. That's the mind trick where they're building a giant breakaway civilization. I've probably read 500, I don't know, articles that are white papers written by them. I've read a bunch of books they've written on it. And it's the most satanic crap you ever read by these executives. They're like, I will become a god and everyone else will bow before me. And if you don't accept AI, I'll step on you like a bug. And we're going to blast off of the corners of the universe and take over. And it's going to be unspeakably great. And it's just crazy. And then you read about the executives, half their kids, like I said, end up in prison or committing suicide. They're totally dysfunctional and crazy. I've been around some of them before. They're clearly on some type of high-tech drugs. And, I mean, these people shouldn't be charting our course. And all I'm saying is they admit the attack on the family, all the race war crap. All of it is to demoralize us and to make a future very bleak so that we all just give into video games, TV, Hollywood, our smartphones, which they admit disassociate us from friends and family, disassociate us from neighbors. And if you just joined us, I'm reading from Australia to Germany to the United States. Well, like, it's a wonderful experiment getting rid of best friends and maybe friends, period. They don't want you to have people you count on, a husband, a wife, a best friend you've known since high school. They don't want you to have those commitments. They want you totally alone. That's what they said they funded the whole free love thing in the 60s. That's in all the white papers from the 50s. Again, from the Tavistock Institute and others. They said, we're going to push free love so that people don't stay together and don't even care about their kids so the state can take control of the family. And it doesn't mean I'm sitting here like some goody two-shoes going, you're going to go to hell, son, if you have sex with that girl. And look, I grew up in all this. I'm not a hypocrite. And I ended up having a family and having children despite the system designed to keep me from doing that or to have me actually with my children. But it worked as hard as it could to try to stop that, and still works to try to stop that. And they admit their whole plan is you can't have a family, you can't have church, you can't have God. Remember at the State of the Union, MSNBC, CNN, they all had pundits going, whoa, what is that? You don't get that anymore. That's a bygone era. Yeah, there's DW, Big German News. Hello, Big Brother, how China controls its citizens through social media. And if you don't behave, you get banned from it. And then you have a global score. When I mean global, it's not a worldwide score. It's global in all of China, which now makes it global. A 360 overview where that ties into all your real credit and everything. And if you behave well, then you get more little chits in your video game. It's the Gulag Archipelago meets the digital Gulag. How does Max Kaiser put it? You merge a casino with a gulag, casino gulag. Social credit system, which blacklists citizens. We first reported on that. It's all over the news in 2018. We first reported on that. Paul Watson did 4 years ago. And they banned that article on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, they were so scared of that. And if you want to know, again, why they're so scared of us, we will simply go to white papers where they're getting it ironed out, getting it ready before they roll it out ubiquitously. We'll go in during beta and go, hey, this really sounds bad. Do you think this is a good idea? They don't want your input socially. They want it to just roll out everywhere, and then suddenly all the TVs are watching and listening to you, and suddenly your kid's got a smartphone lowering their IQ, and they don't care about you anymore. They want to hit you, 50 years after fluoridation. Wow, fluoride causes lower IQs. Wow, it causes all sorts of lower fertility and cancer. Wow, when it's already too late. You're already down with the sickness. So when you look at Facebook, Twitter, Google, they're all using the Chinese model, and it's all, I have Bill Gates today and the head of Unilever saying, shut down conservative media. And then that's supposed to control you, what you say and what you do, or you'll be banned off those platforms. But then pretty soon you're banned no matter what you do, because it's all about total control to where you can't even say best friend. The idea of banning the phrase best friend is a very intriguing social experiment. It's like a fun thing. Oh, we're banning best friends. We're not in a cult or anything. Oh, let me show you this. I mentioned it. Here it is. Obama's artist portrays white girl beheaded by empowered black woman. Infowars.com. This is the portrait artist for Obama, who he's supposedly real good friends with. This just marks the latest in every form of leftist art being supercharged with racial hatred. Talk about butchering a white woman. I'll just butcher the name. Kyan Wiley. It's like Kyan Wiley, the artist behind the new portrait of President Obama, portrayed the beheading of a white girl by a black woman. 2012. She does a bunch of these, or he does a bunch of these. The art piece, Judith beheading Holofernes, places a woman of color, specifically a black woman, in a position of power and majesty. This is so important because of the racism and sexism that women of color have historically and continue to face today. Now, that's why everybody's trying to get out of Africa and get over here as soon as possible. I know everything's so horrible. And here's another one. Here she is beheading the redhead. And just look at the arrogant face they painted on this woman of just like full of herself, hateful, like Oprah Winfrey, bitching that she has billions of dollars, and then chopping the evil white woman's head off. And then white women just grovel and beg, oh, you're right, we're bad. But again, remember what would happen. Just think about it. If Trump or anybody else had someone that did their paintings and had big public events, Obama unveils it, worships this guy, who, again, most of his paintings have little sperm painted everywhere and all sorts of other weird stuff. And then here he is with this lunatic unveiling this painting yesterday. McBreen put a little funny piece together where what the painting should look like. And it's just crazy. This is the total race war narrative that's being pushed to put huge chips on everybody's shoulder. We've got incredible footage coming up on the other side. You got to love some Steppenwolf bringing us in live. I am your host, Alex Jones. All right, getting back into the open attempts to destabilize our civilization, in the words of the World Government Forum, World Government Summit that CNBC is reporting on, there is a destabilization happening of our planet in a massive, massive, massive way, so the establishment can control things and build the world they want and greedily have all the advanced technology, have the life extension, have it all for themselves, and not have any pesky republics or pesky constitutional democracies get in the way of that. And so the average man's an expert on football, an expert on acting cool and acting powerful. The average woman is an expert at, playing the victim or fighting with her female comrades. And it's just a wrecked society. So we have Obama's portrait artist talking about the royalty of a black woman showing supremacy by killing white people and severing their heads, which I'll assure you is going on in Africa, black on black. So it is bizarre that the West has this idea of itself as bad. We then take the position that we're inherently evil, but everyone else who's not white is inherently good. And then we wonder, we have some video of this, of why people like President Obama would pick a portrait artist and have a big press conference when it's known, going back to 2012, that he painted a series of paintings showing white women having their heads cut off as an act of racial superiority and supremacy. Imagine, we should Photoshop this with the head of Obama, or excuse me, the head of Trump, and then it's the head of Obama in the hand. I want to do that right now. Not that I want Trump to cut Obama's head off. I want to put it side by side and say, with a shot of Obama with the portrait unveiling yesterday, a screenshot, saying Obama's portrait artist paints black women murdering white women. And then next to it have that. And then say, imagine if Trump did something like that and have Trump's head on the woman with Obama's head in his hand. Now, I don't want any violence against President Obama. Turn him into a martyr. God, no. I'm saying I want to illustrate, and they'll probably attack us. And knowing Media Matters and that Nazi collaborator George Soros, they'll clip just the image. I'm predicting this. They will clip just the image of Trump's head on the black woman cutting the white woman's head off, but we'll reverse the heads. We'll show we'll show Michelle Obama's head getting cut off, and we'll show Trump doing it, or Melania doing it. That's even better. we'll have Melania cutting Michelle's head off. And again, I don't want that to happen. I'm totally against this. But this is who the president, the former president, elected by white people in record numbers, the same white demographic that elected Trump, that just want change and freedom and getting along. They sit there. Think about this. Let's put that back on screen, please. Imagine this particular photo right here with the black lady cutting the redhead's head off. Imagine if you stuck Melania Trump's head on that black woman and then stuck Michelle Obama's head in the hand. Can you, I mean, it'd be civil war. It'd be the end of the world. So to cause debate, I want to get the entire graphics department on this right now. And again, people get what I want. We're going to show the screenshot of what I'm about to put on screen for TV viewers. Obama yesterday at the unveiling of this. And then you'll say, here is the artist that Obama had do his portrait, who paints paintings like this, showing black women cutting white women's heads off as part of black empowerment. That's what he says, part of the royalty. And then say, imagine if the roles were reversed like this, and show the image of Melania Trump cutting the head off of Michelle Obama. Imagine that. Again, that is, and I don't want that, but I have to do that at Infowars to illustrate. But see, they'll say, oh, we're censoring that hate image. We're censoring that. We're going to say we're going to kill you. We're going to push all this. We're going to engage in all this behavior. But you can't even point out what we're doing is hypocritical, because that's how they operate with the censorship. It is incredible. Now, speaking of that, this is a Vice program that aired last Wednesday. I happened to see it and sent it over. I'm glad it was a big national news story about this weekend, but it's funny how we would have had this story first. It's not a big deal. It's just now it's a big national news story, and I'm glad. But I guess I dropped the ball. But now today we're going to get to it. This is just 3 minutes out of Vice we're going to analyze and give critique to. No whites allowed. Now, a lot of universities already have segregation again. And then days a week where whites aren't allowed, or whites aren't allowed on this area or that area. And it's usually run by white women. But this is the hypocrisy, the racism, the bizarreness, the mental illness, in my view. These women in Costa Rica bitching about the country that helps them have this much money to go do retreats. And they're there saying that whites don't deserve to have passports. Whites are inherently evil. Here are some excerpts of that.
Right now. Yeah. Alexis Bromley is from Nebraska. She needed a break from white people.
In Omaha, it's very segregated. It's hard in Nebraska because it's a red state. And so you just don't know who you interact with on a daily basis, if they believe that you're lesser, if you're inferior, and how that, in turn, can affect me.
So she decided to go on a Women of Color healing retreat in Costa Rica.
My blackness is bold.
My blackness is uninhibited.
My blackness is strength.
This retreat is one of more than a dozen black-owned travel groups, marketing trips specifically to people who look like Alexis.
You know, not every woman can afford to come out to Costa Rica. What can we do for the racism they experience, for women who can't afford to be part of your retreat?
I think that it's important for people in the United States, Black and POC people, to start forming their own spaces there.
Would having white people on this trip ruin it?
I got my money back. Yeah, I don't think we will be as open and as honest as we are with the group that we're in now.
Yeah, we're Black. We knew that racism has been around, but it's a bit more in our face now. It's made me have to pivot my interactions with people. And like,
by the way, let's hit pause for a moment, please. They're pushing this like it's normal and like it's a good thing. And you've got women going, I don't want to be around whites. They may think I'm inferior. The colleges and the media have created a total mental illness where no amount of white groveling and laying on their bellies will ever make these spoiled women who are out there lavishing themselves, you know, when half the people on the planet can't even have a vacation once in their life, totally bitching about how whites are inherently evil when it's white people that began to end slavery worldwide, and less than 2% of white people in the United States at the end of slavery in 1868 ever had slaves. 2% of whites had slaves from 1868 backward. Most of the white people in America came after that, more than double, quite frankly. And you always read about Eastern Europeans getting beaten up or killed in different cities because they're white, because they own slaves. Eastern Europeans had no connection to anything. It's just total mental patient land. Let's continue with this quacky behavior.
Like, I can't trust you on friendship level, family level, any level if you actually are supporting someone that, you know.
See, that's true racism right there.
Do you feel like you've increasingly lost the ability to see any shot at a relationship with white people?
Every time I have a conversation with them, I just pick up on certain things that they say, whatever. I pick up on the microaggressions, the passive aggressiveness. I pick up on it. So I decided one day to just eliminate white people from my personal life. And ever since then, my life has been way
All right, hit pause again.
You know,
she decided to eliminate white people, and that's her right to do it. But I mean, here's the deal: you're trying to give everybody a serious chip on their shoulder that's going to ruin their lives. And folks, this is the globalist answer to bring everybody down. No one will be able to stand up against AI. Nobody will be able to stand up against any of this because humanity will be so turned against itself. This is psychological warfare. Let's continue.
I feel like white people shouldn't even have passports because they've done enough, especially white Americans. Leave them in the United States. They do not need to come here. They do not.
They should be even able to travel here.
They need to stay in the United States.
But to a white person who's doing their best to be the best white person they can be.
I have no tips for a white person. My tip to white people is to let us have our space, let us have our room, and go hang out with other white people. We're okay. You know, you've done enough damage.
20 minutes down the road, Andrea and a business partner have quietly invested nearly $100,000 to build up their own private retreat space.
This is where we'll have the workshops.
I love how most of these women look like they're about 80% white.
On to start building your own black nation out in the middle of Costa Rica.
Then they learn they leased it from a white person.
Starting with yoga. Yeah. Next is going to be like a mini government.
I don't want to have a mini government, but at the same time,
a racially based government. We'll be back where we're building a pro-human future of red blood. We're building a pro-human future against the AI, the real threat. That's why your financial support at InfoWarsStore.com is critical. Second hour straight ahead. All right, coming up, I intend to open the phones in this next hour. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-ALEX. You can cover any topic you want, bring up any issue you want, but I'd like to discuss the World Government Summit CNBC reported from, saying that AI is taking over. We will merge with it. We have no choice. The communist pope says that Chinese communism is the ultimate form of humanity and decency. I'm not joking. This is really something else. And we're going to get into what's happening with the Yellowstone eruption. We're going to get into so much more that we've already started to cover this hour. We've also got this very important article by Kit Daniels. Trump channels Rand Paul during military meetings. I have a bunch of clips we haven't gotten to yet with Mark Warner flipping out with more Russia hysteria. So that is all coming up in this next hour. The toll-free number to join us, 877-789-ALEX. What do we do about them just branding the end of humanity? Because what they're doing is banning dodgeball, banning tag, then banning contact football. They're banning humans being put in difficult positions to domesticate us so that robots and computers have to do it all. And then the globalists can control the computers and the robots, and it's a technocracy. It's game over. We're being forced into a technocracy, and I'm going to talk about that when we start the next segment. But this is the key to understanding. We've exposed the globalists. We've exposed how they're authoritarian. We've exposed their worldwide plan. It's in trouble because it's so authoritarian. It's unelected. Now that we've exposed it, it doesn't have legs. But we've got to expose what globalism wants to do, what its end game is. So that's coming up, and your phone calls at 877-789-2539. But I mentioned this yesterday, but I wanted to talk about it some today. We're announcing a partnership between Patriots, Infowars, and Spikes Tactical. We'll roll some of that footage for folks that are watching here on television. Infowars is proud to team up with Spikes Tactical, a 100% American-made rifle company that offers the highest quality rifle for the best prices possible. And I bought a lot of rifles, and the ones I bought from them, 2 of them are the very best. They don't have problems. They really shoot smooth. They work great. Spikes Tactical has an actual aerospace engineer doing the R&D behind the incredible technology to bring you the finest AR-15s and more with the no BS lifetime warranty. Nobody has a warranty like this. Not only does Spikes Tactical offer the best rifles, they also have the largest selection of AR configurations on the internet, whether you're a gun enthusiast, a competition shooter, or a military or law enforcement professional, these rifles will never let you down, guaranteed. Use code ALEX at checkout to let the team of patriots at Spice Tactical know you support the Infowar and save 5% off the best rifles and AR configurations around. Gear up and start celebrating your Second Amendment rights with Spice Tactical. You can order the rifle, the accessories, whatever you want, the lowers, have it shipped to whatever gun shop you want. It is so easy. Again, Spice Tactical is a 100% American-made rifle company that builds high-quality rifles for the best prices possible. And so there's not a lot of profit in them. That's why 5% off is a big deal when you use promo code ALEX. Their rifles and AR configurations have an actual aerospace engineer and R&D. They also feature, again, the no BS lifetime warranty guaranteed. It's the best rifle you can buy. They're an industry innovation leader, bringing you the largest selection of AR configuration on the internet. Not only do they get the highest quality rifles for the team of true patriots, 5% off the incredible products with promo code ALEX at checkout. Save big at SpiceTactical.com today. That's promo code ALEX at SpiceTactical.com. And just really, really high quality products there. And again, they've got, for people that have their tax stamps and all that, these rifles with the best suppressors out there, so much more. Find out more at SpiceTactical.com. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to boil down the absolute total master plan of the technocracy and the latest breaking news straight ahead. The question is humanity up to the challenge to defeat this? I know I got 4 children. I plan to have more. I'm doubling down. I'm into full commitment. Full commitment. All right, we've got clips from the Senate Intelligence Committee today with the total hysteria by Mark Warner about how Trump is a Russian agent because he won't endorse the fake Russiagate narrative and won't say that bots stole the election for him. When you have all the globalists and their bots 100,000 times anything I've ever heard about with the Russians. That's coming up. But to illustrate, if you just joined us, the technocracy means a rule by technological elites using computers and technology to carry out an authoritarian system. That's its definition. Technocracy is an authoritarian system of technocrats ruling over you. And everything they do is to demoralize, to dumb down, to sabotage, to confuse. Because if humanity ever gets together about big goals, like life extension, like ending war, like expanding, so if we ever get together, if we ever come together and understand what the globalists have done and realize they've walled us off to a certain extent and have their breakaway civilization, it's game over. But that's why they're trying to ban humans in the military. That's why they're trying to sabotage it with all the trans movement and all the rest of it. That's why they're trying to ban football. Because you can't have something where you're put at risk. Because if a plant doesn't have rain on it and wind on it and doesn't have any atmosphere on it, it's like Bubble Boy. First time you run into a microbe, you die. And so they want you totally domesticated, totally alone, not allowed to have any friends. And they admit, even in Bloomberg a few years ago, that, okay, a bunch of countries in Europe now have unelected leaders called technocrats. So they're very brazen about it. But where are the apologies? Where are the, oh, Alex Jones was right when CNBC reports World Government Summit in Dubai, they've decided to phase out humans and merge with machines. That's what world leaders agreed to. That's what the futurists say. It's where we're going. And to not be overtaken by machines, you've got to merge with it right now. Put that smartphone in your head. You know, if you're not falling, maybe in the background without the audio, roll that sickness video we put together. Come down with a sickness, where it shows people walking in the middle of streets, getting hit by cars, falling into fountains, with their smartphones, just staring at them, totally plugged in, and then the numbers show it. Lower IQ, less friends, no real human interaction. Because it's like a video game you're playing where you're constantly trying to get your friends to click on your video and to pay attention to it, but none of it even matters because nobody's even really living. And then Sean Parker says, oh, we designed this to enslave you. And Steve Jobs wouldn't let his children have iPhones. Bill Gates wouldn't let his son touch a computer or any type of iPad or anything till 13. And then it was very limited. But they push it on your kids in preschool. Everything is about self-destructive behavior. Everything is about controlling you. But meanwhile, you've got Barack Obama and the White House portrait master he hired, who's a well-known black supremacist, who says that we need to kill white people, we need to show white people being killed, to show the royalty of blacks and black women and their power over whites. And I'm showing images of this. Imagine if anybody else hired somebody to do something like this. Instead, they're looking for phantom racism. Instead, they're looking for phantom garbage like this. And see, McBreen put together a little piece for watching on TV where we took the real portrait event and, or Nathan did, one of the graphics people, and put this together showing a hammer and sickle and a pentagram. And once they've done that, you're saying, oh, well, you altered it. No. Is it satanic to show black women cutting white people's heads off and saying someone is inherently evil just because of the way they look or what group they come from? That's the opposite of what Martin Luther King said. Everybody thought Michelle Obama looked great in her painting. She doesn't look like a man there. She looks like a woman. But let's roll like I planned earlier, since I mentioned that. The They Live piece. We're going to do it last segment, then last segment, then last segment. We're going to do it now, as we plan to do. Because then you've got They Live, where if you sit there and you actually think about what they're doing, you just consciously put the glasses on, you can understand the larger paradigm and the larger program of what they've got planned for you and your family. Now, that said, you've got this racist hired to do the painting, and it's not even a news issue. It's not even a news item. But then Sessions invokes Anglo-American heritage of America's sheriffs, and the media flips out saying it's code word for racism, despite the fact the Supreme Court, everybody else constantly uses that quote, just like saying Judeo-Christian, because the Old Testament's Jewish, the New Testament is the New Testament Christian, Judeo-Christian. It's like saying French and Spanish and Italian are romantic languages, meaning Rome. Romantic languages. But again, people think the word homosexual, heterosexual is hurtful. They think the word Caucasoid. They think the word Negroid is evil. Words that are just scientific terms. Caucasoid means from the Caucasus Mountains. The other scientific terms have nothing racist about them. They're just simply scientific words. But if they can get you to hate any type of science, they've got control of you. And this is their plan. So Sessions invokes this, and I'm not even defending Sessions. He's rolled over to the globalist. This is something routinely done because we have the Magna Carta 1215. We have locals getting control, and not just having dukes and earls and lords who had total control of your life, wanted sex with your wife, wanted to kill you. It was up to them. And so in comes the Magna Carta and the Anglo-American heritage. When they say Anglo, they mean the Anglo-Saxon / American heritage of due process, of juries, of constables, of sheriffs elected by the people instead of a king. It's the world process that led to the Renaissance, away from that in this compendium. So let's go ahead and play that clip.
So I want to close by reiterating my deep appreciation, profound thanks to the men and women of law enforcement, to me personally, that you've given to me. And I want to thank every sheriff in America. Since our founding, the independently elected sheriff has been the people's protector, who keeps law enforcement close to and accountable to people through the elective process. The office of sheriff is a critical part of the Anglo-American heritage of law enforcement. We must never erode this historic office. I know this, you know this. We want to be partners. We don't want to be bosses. We want to strengthen you and help you be more effective in your work.
So that was a very federalist speech. The federal government is here. The federal system, you think of as being federal. No, it means the federal's federal, local's local. We're here to empower you. Back to the Magna Carta. He should have given a whole lesson he should give a new speech about, before that, the king could just kill you if he wanted to, or any of his adjuncts. But now we have the people control electing a sheriff, and they're trying to get rid of sheriffs all over. Blue areas are. Democrats don't want that. They don't want elected law enforcement. They want to be in full control themselves. So there's a war on sheriffs. And so he did a little hat tip to that, and something that sheriffs would understand because of the nomenclature and the particular linguistic parlance engaged in the fine art of the law and the historical Anglo-Saxon common law that our entire system of jurisprudence rests upon. But to the ignorant leftist masses, any communication or any flourish of verbal bouquet becomes an anathema to be pulled down and thrown into the deepest sea, and only barbarous savagery and attacks on the very work of knowledge and literature and art and culture itself to be burned down on the altar of political correctness. We'll be right back. Stay with us. So we've got a bunch of ruthless people that want to take full control of civilization. And they just think you're idiots. They think I'm an idiot. And they think it wastes time trying to educate us or get us on the right path. So they just engage in every evil imaginable and see us as animals. Of course, they're already animals, so they're trying to turn us into what they are. And I've got a whole stack of news on this front coming up in the next segment. European politicians won't admit the West is in a state of war, says security analyst on National Czech television. Well, that's because they understand you're in a state of war, and they've engineered the war to bring down Europe, and they won't tell you that. That's the plan. So even people that are somewhat awake, they think the other side doesn't know. No, they're fully conscious. That's the issue. And then, as I mentioned, Mark Warner hypes Russian hysteria. And I know I'm sick of the Russian stuff, too, but it's a real fight. They're using this to censor the internet, to censor Infowars, to censor you. Now millions of people have gotten letters from Twitter saying, you're a Russian agent. Better watch it. That's a very aggressive act. And to have all these big corporations saying, we're going to censor everybody. That is a big existential threat to all of our freedom. We need congressional hearings. We need demonstrations out front, Google, and all these places. We need to get aggressive. They're running around trying to stop me being able to publish a book with Neil Strauss. This is what they do. These are horrible people. These are the bad guys. These are the Chinese tanks coming in to crush the pro-free speech rallies in Tiananmen Square in 1989. But now they claim we are the bad guys. Our speech is the tanks. Their tanks is the freedom. That's their upside-down world, so that's coming up. But right now, let's go to your phone calls. We got Kevin and Ferry and Jay and George and Andre and Victor and Josh and Lloyd and CJ and Sam and so many. Let's go to Sam in Oklahoma. He wants to talk about the articles on worldnetdaily.com. It's an Infowars.com link to it. You have to read the quotes. The Pope said, Communist China defines dignity and humanity and Catholicism. So Communist Chinese, mass murder, killing Christians, killing Buddhists. The Communist Pope says this defines it. I mean, is that not the sickest joke you ever heard? Sam?
Yes, Alex. The news in China and the news in Costa Rica about the cult down there really go together. I also noticed that earlier in the week you brought up that the European Union was originally called the Treaty of Rome, starting in 1952. That's a very astute and a correct observation. As far as China, back in the 1950s, Cardinal Bea informed Alberto Rivera, teaching him in Rome as a young Jesuit acolyte, that the Catholic Church controlled China from right there in Rome. And now we're seeing that after decades of masking, that there's a final union between the state church and the Communist Party.
Well, I used to read that and hear that and think it was crazy 20 years ago. And now, undoubtedly, the Roman Church is 100% at the top, globalist run now, and is antithetical to any Christian belief system whatsoever. I mean, the Pope has put out public statements saying communist China is the example for us all. Now, if that doesn't tell you we got issues, I mean, they sell political dissidents organs. It's hell on earth. Anything else, sir?
Yes, Alex, I absolutely agree with that. The book of Revelation talks about the beast and the false prophet, and now with this turnover and the Jesuit Pope taking over, there are actually two popes, which could fulfill that prophecy about the beast and the false prophet. If we look in the book of Revelation, it really talks a lot about the mother of harlots as the Roman Church, and this is why cults spin off from places where Romanism is very strong. Like in the banana republics in Costa Rica, I have preached in Costa Rica myself, and what I found was secularism is very strong. Secularism also, which is kind of the religion of Europe at this point, is a harlot daughter of the Catholic Church, and it's something that they've done intentionally.
Oh, there's no doubt that leftists took over the Catholic Church, and I'm not saying it didn't have problems before, and now completely run it. But the Methodist Church, all of it, I've been to some of these churches, and it's they take money up for Bill and Melinda Gates. And, I mean, it's just like, what? And they're taking the crosses out of the churches. It's crazy. It's very, very sad, Sam. But this Pope is completely uncloaked. I mean, I'm surprised he doesn't pull his skin off and he's got horns and a tail. I mean, he might say Satanism is the greatest form of Christianity. Because when you say that communist China is the ultimate form of Christianity, that is insane. Thank you for calling, Sam. Let's talk to Victor in Florida. Victor, you're calling. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Alex. All right, so first I want to start off by mentioning two things before I go into the main thing here. First, I just want to mention if people just go and try the products, they will be ordering all the time. I've ordered several of the products over and over because it's amazing. In particular, Silver Bullet, as soon as I start to feel like I get a little sick, you know, maybe like a little, you know, throat, I feel like a raspiness in my throat, I drop some Silver Bullet, and it I'll still feel a little sick, but it won't last as long. I've ordered X2, B12, DNA Force, BioTrue Selenium, Anthroplex, Living Defense, Super Male Vitality, Biome Defense, Flora Life, Myco ZX, and the Z Shield. I mean, everything from the toothpaste and the mouthwash. I've ordered water filters, the storable food. Thank God I haven't had to use it yet. The shirts, which is kind of funny. You know, you get some good reactions and some nasty faces sometimes from some libtards. And I just ordered the body, the Alpha Power, and the Pollen Block.
Well, let me just say something, Victor. It's people like you that then fund the whole operation, because a very small percentage of people buy products, and a very small percentage of them buy a lot of the products. So thank you. But, yes, we set out to whatever the very best in the industry is, get it, private label it, or redevelop it, and discount it. And so that's what we do. So thank you so much. We want this stuff to really work well for people, obviously, so they keep buying it again. But when you mention the Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver, it's got thousands of reviews, a 98% review. It is our highest reviewed product because it is from the top lab in the country, discounted high-quality colloidal silver. And it's not a silver bullet, but it's the closest thing you're going to find to a silver bullet. So God bless you. Now, we're going to have to go to break because you want to do your plug. So stay there. I'm going to come back to Victor after the break, I promise. And we're going to go to everybody else, Lloyd and CJ and everybody else. But since he mentioned that, I might as well plug briefly. We've got the Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula that has some of the strongest concentrated turmeric on the market out there. It's got a 97% or 95% curcuminoid rating. Other leading brands have a 3%. So they'll have 400 milligrams of it, but it'll be 3%. Ours is 95% curcumin, so it's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Infowarstore.com. It's 50% off, but that special's about to end. Stay with us. Hollywood Babylon is burning down. The globalists are in trouble everywhere. Coming up after this call, then I'll go back to your calls after I cover it. Trump channels Rand Paul during military meetings. They've released some transcripts of what he's saying, and it's absolutely dead on. So I'm going to read some of those transcripts coming up here in a moment and then tie that into this. And again, I just go off the facts. Never been to Russia, not a Russophile. I know the globalists put the Marxist in there and put the whole Leninistic system in there in 1917, just like they're trying to do here. Very same globalist grandchildren today are doing this to us. Dutch foreign minister resigns after admitting lie about Putin meeting. He's been caught. They can timestamp and prove that he never met with Putin and made it up that Putin said he wanted a greater Russia. So there you go. They even had people in Georgia try to remerge with Russia. And they're like, no, thanks. We don't want that. So it's just crazy. That's right. Dutch foreign minister resigns for lying about Putin meeting. This is what they're supposed to do because they're all globalists selling their countries out. Russia's not selling Russia out. That's why the globalists hate him. And it's the same thing. Trump doesn't want to do that. But he's surrounded by people that won't carry out his directives. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But finishing up here with an interesting caller, Victor in Florida. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I just also want to mention to you, I know that you guys are going to expand. So just in my personal journey into being awakened, because at one point in time, I was actually a libtard, and that I was awakened. My brother, actually, which is a former Marine, used to listen to you, and I, used to think, oh, he's just brainwashed. But then I realized I was the one that was brainwashed. And what I'm trying to get at is I couldn't sleep at night, and I would stay up watching all these videos with you on there and just different things on YouTube, and I couldn't fall asleep. So I hope that when you expand, you put a show sometime at that late night time, because then it's live and people get to see, people that are...
No, I totally agree. And again, it's about putting an infrastructure. It's about getting people hired that can run live shows. It takes about 4 or 5 people to run a show. We got like 7 or 8 right now because we're training everybody on my show. But we've got the new crews, and then another wave of crews are going to come in after that. But within 3 or 4 months, we're going to be ready. And I totally agree. A lot of people want, to have us, at least up till midnight every night. And I like Coast to Coast. We wouldn't be competition against them. They have like 60% of the stations at night. We're not trying to go into that market. That's not what we're targeting. I go on George's show all the time. It's just that I just don't see that we can break into a market they totally dominate, basically midnight till 4 a.m. So that's not really our target area. We might go to 1 a.m. and then come back at 6. I just think that kind of 1 to 6, that 5 hours is an area that we're not going to do. And we may just have kind of somebody that picks the best things of the day and kind of for those hours there's that. But you're absolutely right. Up until midnight or 1 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock, Pacific, we really need to do that. And you're absolutely right. Here's the issue, and I'm having a meeting about this today with our reporters, and they're all great people. We get sent classified stuff all the time. And when I get sent classified stuff, I got to double check it's classified. That takes some work, okay? Then I have to decide, is this illegal, what people are doing? And if it is illegal, I have to then call the FBI, which, we do quite often. And I'll contact the person that sends me the info and say, I've got to go to the FBI with this. Is that what you want, or are you going to contact them? And a lot of times they go, oh, I'll contact them. We're running a real news organization here. So what's killing me is actually trying to drink the Great Lake of information with a little pixie straw. That's what's frustrating. That's what's hard. That's what really makes me want to pull my hair out, because we can't, let me tell you, you could have 1,000 analysts trying to get the intel we've got and do it knowing what to do with it. I've had a lot of stuff go on. I'll just leave it at that. Just the last week, where it's like a James Bond movie, but it's not fun. And it's because they know the military's listening, and the globalists are obsessed with this show because they know their own people are listening. The general public kind of tunes in and goes, oh, is this real? Is this not? The establishment tunes in. And the White House listens, a lot of the stuff. And My problem is I have reporters come to me. They go, look, we got this guy inside this organization. He says this, this, and that, and he's sending us this. And I look at it, and I just know that it's a time bomb and that you're not, and it's very questionable whether you're even supposed to have that information, especially when it's private. It's one thing if it's government. You can argue whistleblower protection. When it's private stuff, it just goes in a shredder. And I'm like, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it. And it's not like I'm even covering stuff up. I can't deal with it, okay? And I've had the experiences where I don't go with my gut and I go ahead and run with that. And then it creates situations where this whole operation can be shut down. We don't even need more information at this point. We don't need more secret intel or more WikiLeaks or more. And we do want all that. And people should send us their information. It's just, then I go through the process of people like, well, why aren't we going to cover this? Well, because there's certain things like attorney-client privilege. There's certain things like national security. There's certain things like, with great power comes great responsibility is all I'm trying to get at. And my great frustration is I know a lot of stuff other people don't know. And I don't mean BS intelligence, which is mainly just echo chamber propaganda. Some of the most propagandized groups are intelligence agencies and militaries and corporations. I mean real information because I have other sources and I can add it to a whole spectrum of analysis and other data points that nexus in and a human algorithm. We are supercomputers, and then give a prime approximation of that being an accurate data point that we could then talk about. It's just, no, we're not bitching or complaining. We're trying to serve you as best we can because we're serving each other. And I liken it to growing up. I remember reading a book when I was a kid. I forget the name of the book. My grandma was reading it to me. My mom's mom. It was a story of a little Mexican farmer kid that lived outside a big volcano, and he grew up a teenager, and the volcano never had smoke coming out of it. And then one day it woke up, and a week later it exploded and covered his whole farm with lava, and he barely escaped. It was a story of just the volcano. Well, the volcano started in his coffee field. That's right, then just suddenly built up and then blew up. The point is that it's the same thing with this North Korea situation. We're sitting here with this time bomb, and for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, the deputy director of the CIA wants me to know that North Korea is planning to strike Japan at the end of March, early April. And then what is the point of telling me that? Well, people just want you to know, and you can say it if you want. You know, it becomes like a... And then these are real sources telling me this. This is real. And then at a certain point, I can't even figure this out anymore. So all I know is it's like we're growing up next to a volcano that hasn't erupted. And it's just a mountain we climb around on. And then one day it's got hot lava shooting out the top of it. And then it explodes like Mount St. Helens. So that's where we all are. And it's all above our pay grade. Anybody that thinks they're in control is a liar. Stuff's crazy. You hear what I'm saying, Victor?
Yeah, and that's actually what I kind of wanted to talk about. Remember that nuke that went missing out of nowhere, out of a base?
Yeah, it was Minot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was wondering if...
Hold on, we'll come back again. This is important. All right, here is the breaking news. You know, right after 9/11, we saw Democrats and Republicans sent anthrax, weaponized anthrax. And now... you have Donald Trump Jr.'s house getting hit with a white substance that reportedly made his wife sick. She had to go to the hospital. They haven't said what it was. Now, a white substance sent to Obama's D.C. office. Cops are investigating a mysterious white substance that was sent to ex-president's office, Capitol, according to multiple reports. So we'll continue to follow that. Obama has leased space at the building owned by a nonprofit World Wildlife Fund, which has its headquarters there since leaving office in January. So there you go. Now, I want to get into this report here. Trump's channels ran Paul during military meetings, I mentioned last segment, then back to your calls. But right now, let's finish up with Victor in Florida. Victor, sorry you got cut off again. Go ahead and finish your point.
No problem. So, yeah, so I just wanted to mention that nuke that went missing, I feel it in my gut that the globalists are kind of holding on to that as a last-ditch effort. And I think that if they end up using it, I mean, it would be obviously so tragic. But they will blame it, I think, on North Korea or Russia, and I think that could potentially be the next huge false flag because, they need.
I totally agree with you. I think there's nothing the globalists won't do, including, detonating a cruise missile nuke they've stolen. Don't forget, off of the Air Force Base in West Texas, they had a bunch of hidden nukes out there. We had high-level sources. And it was 4 or 5 years ago. They got caught smuggling them out and hiding them somewhere, and that all blew up huge. And the day after we reported it, Lindsey Graham said, that a nuke might blow up Charleston. So that was real. Those reports we got were real from the base. There was a standoff with the security from the base, and the top general had to come down and sign off to let the 18-wheelers with the nukes, the secret nukes, roll on down the highway. There is a lot of craziness going on. God bless you, Victor. Great points. Now let's get to this article and back to your calls. It's a Kit Daniels article on newswars.com and Infowars.com. And people that attack Trump saying he's this big hawk, he's very pragmatic. If somebody's threatening the U.S., he'll stand up to him. But he was against the second Gulf War, 2003. Trump channels Rand Paul during military meetings. President growing more libertarian as the battle with the swamp intensifies. President Trump sounds a lot like Rand Paul or even his father, Ron Paul, during military meetings by asking generals why they won't bring the troops home, which is why he wants to have the parade. Yeah, bring some troops home, then have the parade. And declare the military is now back under U.S. control, not under globalist control as it was becoming. That's another reason to have the parade. This, according to a source in the Washington Post, which tried to smear the president as impulsive, yet reading deeper into the article reveals the president leans libertarian when it comes to foreign policy, more so than previously known. Well, I think it was actually known, but yes, this confirms it more. The problem is the Washington Post is such fake news, who knows? But this is the kind of stuff you said before, so I tend to believe it. For one thing, the president wonders why the U.S. is in Somalia, of all places. He has repeatedly pressed Mattis and McMaster in stark terms to express and explain why U.S. troops are in Somalia. Can't we just pull out, he has asked, according to U.S. officials. And Trump questions U.S. involvement in Afghanistan, which is now the country's longest war. In a meeting with his top national security aides, the president grew frustrated. Quote, "You guys want me to send troops everywhere," Trump said, according to officials in the Situation Room meeting. What's the justification? Don't you just love these leaks? "Sir, we're doing it to prevent a bomb going off in Times Square," Mattis replied. The response angered Trump, who insisted Mattis could make the same argument about almost any country on the planet. According to the Washington Post, Mattis told Trump to embrace the status quo of wartime president like the previous two administrations. Sounds like Mattis needs to go if the public wanted expanded wars in Somalia and Afghanistan, two countries with vast majority of Americans have never been to. They would have given Hillary a landslide win. I am for barring people from those countries, which the president's done. I remember the U.S. airstrike on a Syrian airfield that made Trump appear aggressive. That strike was the most limited military option presented to Trump, according to the New York Times, and it effectively neutered Trump's enemies at the time who were presenting him and pressuring him to go to war. While this isn't an endorsement of the strike, it did kill a Syrian pilot. It is worth pointing out that the attack left the runway unharmed, meaning that the airbase was left operational for Syria to continue strikes on ISIS. It's as if Trump wanted to appear he would wage war while maintaining some of the restraint of Senator Rand Paul. Powerful little article by Kit Daniels. Let's get it out to everybody, because that's dead on to what Trump's all about. And that's what he's dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why the globalists are so upset, because they want to use the U.S. as an engine of global domination. Let's go ahead and go to Lloyd in Washington. You're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Mr. Alex Jones. How
Hey,
you
brother.
doing, sir?
Good, man. Thank you for calling.
Hey. I just want to say thanks for your products and everything that you're doing to try to save the country. I've tried your Secret 12, Super Male, Anthroplex, the Silver Bullet, Biome Defense, Myco ZX. It's all good stuff. Secret 12, if everybody would just drop their energy drinks and get some Secret 12, take a shot of that.
Well, that's the thing about Secret 12. Just a half a dropper has way more energy, and it's totally, people ask, why is it sweet? Real organic B12 is sweet. And exactly, if I'm super tired, I go, hey, why am I drinking coffee at 10 at night if I'm going on some show like Coast to Coast? Boom, Secret 12, 30 minutes later, massive energy. It's amazing.
Yeah, that stuff will wake you up, and the clarity of mind that comes along with that is just amazing.
By the way, these aren't set up calls. I had no idea you were, it said you were calling in about brainwash MSM, but thanks for the support. Anything else, Lloyd?
Yeah, well, actually, the brainwash people, it's kind of amazing that these people can sit back and, you know, I mean, you just sit here and you've been reading articles and books and magazines and reports for 30 years. You'd think, you know, 18, 12 hours a day of doing this kind of work that you would have an idea of what the hell's going on in the world. Well, you try to tell people, you know, that Alex is on it, he's just reading articles, and they're like, shut up, you racist, homophobic, or whatever it is. And it's kind of a shame.
Exactly, that's the crutch. It's like, oh, here's CNBC, world government wants a world system where everybody gets a brain chip. Instead of like, well, you guys were right 20 years ago, how'd you know? It's like, shut up, racist. That's all that, it's so sad, isn't it? Meanwhile, the president's portrait artist paints black women chopping white women's heads off in an act of royal supremacy, close quote. What? I mean, I don't want to be racist against anybody. What? I mean, I used to look down my nose at the KKK and still do, but then they got these black groups that act even worse. It's like, what in the hell is going on here?
It is amazing that they can just continue to watch Hollywood and the sitcoms and the late night shows and just love the lies. They love the lies. They do. They feel like they're part of it. They're living existentially through somebody else. It's like they're delusional. That fictional world, the Matrix. Everybody needs to eat the red pill in a hurry.
God bless you, Lloyd. I appreciate your call. We're going to go to break. I'll do 5 more minutes of calls. Then coming in, because he's here in town. Why not have him host some? We're going to have Owen Schroyer, who's always here in town, but Roger Stone, and then Paul Watson's coming up. I'm doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, satellite uplinks and big deals that are going on to launch us into TV stations, radio stations, cable stations everywhere. It's already happening. So that's why I've been popping in here a few hours there, missing a few of the shows lately. You know, I even work on vacation. I work 7 days a week, but some of the stuff I've got to be intimately involved in. So I've got a bunch of meetings coming up today on investigative journalism, on satellite uplinks, on capitalization, on funding, on sponsorship, on battling censorship. So, no, we're working hard. And please don't thank me like the last caller. Brother, I'm in this with you. We're all together. We all want a future for our children. And those of us that are conscious and aware of this program, the globalists, we've got to stand against it. So that is coming up. Since you mentioned it, I've just been too busy, as everybody knows. We usually have specials for a week. They tend to go like 2 weeks because I get so busy I don't go and look at what we've got inventory-wise and what's best-selling. And because we tend to discount what's best-selling, but that we have in stock. We don't like discount something that's not selling because we don't even produce stuff that doesn't sell. We have introducing the Infowars Life Daily Digestive Pack with the carnivore enzyme for meat and fat. It helps you absorb it, pass it to your body better. And the Flora Life 15 billion probiotic. That's 50% off those two together. We have Icarin, the liver and kidney detox with the super concentrates. Nobody's got at these levels of the milk thistle and N-acetylcysteine and other key compounds. That's 50% off. It's only $19.95. And we've got so much more. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Sign up for auto ship, an additional 10% off. And there's so many other big specials that are about to end, like the Cell Shield. That's about to end at 50% off as well. We'll be back with the third hour. Stay with us. By the way, there's the big firestorm as the National Portrait Gallery artist hired by Obama is well known for being a black supremacist that calls for black women to be royal and to assess their royalty by chopping white women's heads off. And he paints all of that. Those articles are up on Infowars.com. We can throw that up on screen for TV viewers because I know it sounds completely and totally unbelievable. But now there is a new controversy. And I remember reading about this a year ago when he was chosen, and this has been in the mainstream news. Obama portrait shock, president covered in sperm. This artist is obsessed with sperm. All of his paintings have sperm swimming all over everything. So I've told Kit to take the question mark off. It's admittedly that he paints sperm everywhere. And the word is him and Obama are really good friends. And so here's a giant sperm swimming across the president's head. He also shows the president has 6 fingers in the national portrait. So there is the sperm, the head of the sperm. But this is a GMO sperm. It wouldn't even have a tail or be able to swim. So these are fully formed sperm that he has. You can see the sperm there swimming as well. So that is in your face. That is, you say, well, it doesn't make sense. It's so degenerate. It's a religion of degeneracy. It's what globalism is. It's what Satanism is. So there you go. President Obama covered in sperm in new national portrait. And it's all part of the joke in your face. Because they don't want upright strength. They want to have everything be a ritual of abomination. Jay in Toronto, thanks for holding your own the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. I'll make it quick. I know you have your...
Oh, you're awesome. Go ahead.
Coming on. I want to say, first off, I think you should shake Owen's hand. I saw the video where they were spitting on him, and I don't know how he kept his composure and how he didn't react. That's just amazing. I would never have been able to do that. So as one guy, I think you got to shake his hand for doing that. Moving on, I wanted to say that, you know, last week you had a guest on who was talking about the situation where America has an option between China and Pakistan or Russia and India, and he was
well, it's different global alliances. It's Russia with India, with Japan, with the U.S., with the UK versus the other alliance.
Yes, but I want to say that you know, so I'm South Asian. I'm a Sikh, so I come from that region of the world, and India is not a safe place for Christians. One of the most dangerous places for Christians is actually India. The Prime Minister of India, Modi, he himself imposed a law where it's illegal to change religions into Christianity. So if you're a Hindu and you're a lower caste Hindu, you cannot convert to Christianity unless you get permission. So it's, you know, like, and I understand, you know, the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend.
No, I understand India's got its own problems, but but haven't you had like 100 and something million Hindus have been killed by Islamicists in the last 1,400 years, right?
Well, there's been a lot of problems with Islam coming in, but then again, there's also been problems with Buddhism, Hindus attacking Buddhists. So what happened was Afghanistan was initially Buddhist. That's why the Taliban had destroyed the Buddhist sculptures that were in the
No, that's right.
What happened was...
And describe briefly then who the Sikhs are and how they had to basically become militarized just to survive.
Yeah, so... And again, like, this isn't about specific religions. It's about the leaders of that time of those religions. Let's just clarify. You know, I don't want to...
Sure, I understand.
Religion, right? So what happened was when Hindus made the Buddhist switch over to Hinduism, they were kind of resenting that, and Afghanistan became Hinduism once more. And then when Islam came, they then used that religion as a form of conquering India. And at that point, the Muslims were coming into India and they were forcibly converting Hindus into Islam.
I ought to put you on hold and get your number. You should come on as a guest to talk about this. I know it's really complex. That's amazing, Jay. You get his number.
We've discussed this at length. In recent years, we've also seen the rise of nations who view themselves at least as competitors, if not as adversaries of the United States. They began to utilize new asymmetric weapons to undercut our democratic institutions, to steal our most sensitive intellectual property. Let me start with Russia. Obviously, certain questions remain with respect to the true extent of the Russian interference in the 2016 elections. And we'll work through these, continue to work through these in a bipartisan way on this committee. However, I think you'll find a broad bipartisan consensus on this committee on a number of critical issues. First, that Russia engaged in a coordinated attack to undermine our democracy. Second, that effort included targeting of state and local elections, electoral activities in 21 states. And third, the Russian effort in a new area utilized our social media platforms to push and spread misinformation at an unprecedented scale. Now, we've had more than a year to get our act together and address the threat posed by Russia and implement a strategy to deter further attacks. But I believe, unfortunately, we still don't have a comprehensive plan. 2 weeks ago, Director Pompeo publicly stated that he has every expectation that Russia will try to influence our upcoming elections. Secretary of State Tillerson just last week said that we're already seeing Russian efforts to meddle in the 2018 elections. But I believe in many ways we're no better prepared than we were in 2016. Make no mistake, this threat did not begin in 2016, and it certainly didn't end with the election. What we are seeing is a continuous assault by Russia to target and undermine our democratic institutions, and they're going to keep coming at us. Despite all this, the president inconveniently continues to deny the threat posed by Russia. He didn't increase sanctions on Russia when he had a chance to do so. He hasn't even tweeted a single concern. This threat, I believe, demands a whole-of-government response, and that response needs to start with leadership at the top. At the same time, other threats to our institutions come from right here at home. There have been some, aided and abetted by Russian internet bots and trolls, who've attacked the basic integrity of the FBI and the Justice Department. This is a dangerous trend. This campaign of innuendo and misinformation should alarm all of us, regardless of our partisan affiliation.
Now, let me explain something about Senator Warner here. He is a snake in the grass because that entire 3-minute question, monologue, whatever you want to say that he went on there, was 100% so that Democrat media could use that for clips and play it on tonight's shows. And as I'm listening, I'm saying, hey, crew, is that the statement he made earlier? And they're saying, yes, that was a statement. And they're already telling me NPR is using it, CNN is using it. And so I remember watching that Warner, when Mark Warner was saying that, and I went to the War Room Twitter account, and I actually tweeted out. I was like, you watch. The only reason why Warner made that statement was so that Democrat media could use it later and say, look, Russia's clearly tampering our election. They all agree, even though Trump's name was never even brought up. And then Jim Sciotto from CNN totally misrepresents what Warner did and said and what Dan Coates said during the questioning. But we'll get more into that later with Roger Stone. In the meantime, we are joined by Gavin McInnes. And I think that we've got something very strange to talk about here, Gavin, a strange portrait of Barack and Michelle Obama. I'm not sure which one is worse. I guess we could just start there. Which one of the Obama portraits is worse?
The Obama one is worse because of the context. We're never going to see that Michelle Obama one anywhere. But when your son, your grandson, looks up presidential portraits, he'll see all the same, and then some guy in a bunch of leaves. And the reason Obama did that is because it's an FU to traditionalism and America in general. So he's not about America, he's about Obama. And I think this presidential portrait perfectly sums up that megalomania.
Gavin, first of all, let me compliment you on your official Proud Boys pocket protector. It's a great look.
Thank you very much.
I love it. I love it.
$2.50 on our merch at our merch store.
You know, it's actually funny. This Obama portrait, it gets even stranger and stranger. So you have the artist that did the depiction of black women decapitating white women, and you can tell it's totally a racially motivated thing just by the artwork. And then you've got the other thing. I couldn't even believe that when I came in here and you saw Alex Jones reporting on how this artist likes to put semen on his artwork. I mean, and then there's the other thing about Obama being in the weeds. It's almost a perfect representation of his presidency. In the weeds is like a saying. It's like you're in the weeds, you're far behind, you don't know what you're doing, you're clueless, you're hopeless. That was Obama. That was Barack Obama. I mean, the portrait is actually rather stunning as far as its accuracy is concerned.
Well, I think they have to be seen in some context. Obama looks like he's taking a dump, and Michelle looks like she's smelling it. I mean,
it smells like Schiff, too.
It does smell like Schiff, but more of that later.
There's so many layers of allegory here, and if Kehinde Wiley did this portrait to make us talk about him, then he did a great job. I think it's fascinating that the guy's a complete fraud. He's a fairly good painter from the mid-aughts who discovered he could just send pictures down to China and they will paint them meticulously and do the photorealism. So around 2010, his paintings get about 40% better overnight because he opened up a sweatshop in Beijing where they do all this work. And I think he does the sperms because he gets back, like you can see even on this Obama one, the leaves are repeated because he's just used a Photoshop pattern and copied it with the stamp tool. And then he sends this Photoshop collage. The Chinese recreate it perfectly. And I bet when it comes back, he feels kind of guilty. He goes, I'm one of the highest paid artists of my generation. I'm just going to add some squiggly sperms just to sort of make me feel better about the fact that this is a complete ripoff.
There's the pictures on Infowars.com. Obama portrait shocked, president covered in sperm. At first I thought maybe this was a reference to maybe perhaps some homosexuality tendencies that he might have. I didn't realize this was like a thing that the artist does. But
It's a meme. It's a meme, I guess.
Yeah.
Sub-theme of his work.
Some subtext there,
It's
Gavin.
really weird.
Well, he's really into hot guys because he's gay. And his background is painting super hot black thugs and then painting them in sort of a Napoleon thing. So he's got Chinese people depicting black guys doing white history. It's like Hamilton all over again. And so much of this recent black culture seems to be about fantasizing that European history is their history and they crossed the Swiss Alps and you know, they discovered America. They were the founding fathers. And I don't mind that per se, but I just mind that you have a problem with whites. I love including blacks, but now you're determined to sort of exclude whites out of some sort of, I believe, racist animosity.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. When I was in London, I took in Hamilton, and I actually enjoyed it, but I had no idea Thomas Jefferson was black. No idea.
And I don't care that you made Thomas Jefferson black. I care that you mind that Thomas Jefferson was white. Why are you so put off? Why can you not read American history if it's a bunch of, as they say, dead white men? What's the matter with dead white men?
Well, they founded this country to begin with.
I like them. Some of my favorite guys are dead white guys.
Yeah, you better watch out. You're talking kind of racist stuff now there. You can't be glorifying white people. That's why we need to hire black artists that depict white women being beheaded by black women, and then also, as just kind of an aside, like to put sperm in their art. That's just it. That's just art to me.
Yeah. It's one thing if you're going to be obsessed with affirmative action. It's another thing if you're going to be lazy about it. And there's probably millions of old black dudes who smoke a pipe, who can do photorealism, who would do a traditional presidential portrait. You could have added a little twist. You could even be wearing sunglasses. I don't know. But no, you had to go all out and get a gay racist to make fun of all the other presidential portraits because you don't like America. And every gesture you do has to be a screw you to the rest of us.
That's Gavin McInnes. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back. Well, you just never know. You never know what's going on here at Infowars. It's so crazy. Alex Jones might be walking around the corner, seeing what you're researching with the most breaking news as we are visited live by Gavin McInnes. You know, one of the things that's not being reported on that happened as far as the portrait reveal yesterday was the fact that all other portraits revealed, at least from my knowledge, and I just did a brief look into history. Roger, you were confirming this as far as your memory concerned as well. They're always done at the White House. They always do the portrait reveal at the White House.
Yes.
But for Obama, they did it at the Smithsonian. So I'm wondering, why didn't the Obamas have the portrait reveals at the White House? Is that because, well, obviously the Trumps and the Obamas probably don't get along considering Obama was illegally spying on him? Is it because Melania had the White House exorcised from the demons that the Obamas left behind and she didn't want the Obamas back? Is it because the Obamas didn't want to go back because they know they're being looked into for all this potential treason?
I think you hit it. Melania probably didn't want to reinfect the place.
Yeah, she already had it exercised. She didn't want those demons coming back.
Yeah, that could be it.
What do you think, Gavin? I mean, you know, you're a pretty creative, artistic guy. I mean, you've got the pocket protector on. You've got the glasses. I mean, I'd assume you can make art just by looking at you. That's what I do. But I think that, you know, the Michelle Obama portrait, I mean, that was just a total hack job. I mean, who drew that? They don't know how to shade. I mean, it's like, it doesn't even look like her. I mean, what?
Michelle Obama is so hideous that she looks disproportioned in real life. Sometimes when you see her, just a photograph of her, it looks like a bad drawing.
Well,
So
that
it's
might be for a
possible-
reason.
It's possible those giant crocodile hands and that hideous face and those bizarre proportions, it's possible those are all completely accurate.
Well,
But
you know,
isn't it funny that she chose an artist who is a self-described social justice warrior artist, and she represents the perfect kind of black that liberals love. They don't love real deal blacks that, you know, are working class and are busting their ass that love America. They like quirky ones that have like funny frames and some blonde tips and listen to NPR and will do tricks when you tell them to. It really, the people they chose, the black gay intellectual who outsources his work and the social justice warrior woman, they really represent the kind of black people that white people want. Not really authentic blacks, but sort of pet Negroes, if you will.
Well,
Careful there.
Go back to the, can you guys go back to the Michelle portrait real quick? You know, they're making it a depiction like she's propping up her elbow on her, or her arm on her knee. Other people think she might be propping it up on her third arm, if you know what I mean. But maybe the problem is that the artist actually drew a woman. Maybe that was the problem. The artist actually drew a woman. And then on the other side, actually, if you notice, look at Obama's left hand in the portrait. If you actually zoom in on Obama's left hand, it looks like the artist made him with 6 fingers. It just gets weirder and weirder. Look at this deal.
Oh, and you just saying that just got a poor little Asian 14-year-old thrashed with 10 lashes.
He's being caned
for
right now.
failing to do his job. You just got him kicked out of the sweatshop. Way to
I'm
go.
sorry,
dude.
I didn't know that. What? That was part of the Chinese Photoshop job?
No. Kehinde does the Photoshop. The Chinese have to sit there for 100 hours meticulously painting it so they can have enough ramen to not starve to death.
Well, and if you look at his face, it's a little odd. I could be wrong, but I think he has the bottom third of Richard Nixon's face. Isn't that Nixon's face across the bottom?
Well,
and the jowls, look at those jowls.
We're told Nixon was the worst guy on earth because he dared to record someone. It turns out Obama was spying on absolutely everyone. Aren't Nixon and Obama kindred spirits in that sense?
Well, other than the fact that what Nixon did pales in comparison in terms of the scope of what Obama did. Remember, at least Nixon's was a private job. 6 misguided individuals break into the Watergate and never plant a bug that works. Obama uses the entire authority and power of the state to spy on the Republican candidate for president, sweeping in its illegality.
I want to
exactly. And we'll never stop hearing about Nixon. They just crowbarred the Pentagon Papers into that movie, The Post, and made it all about Nixon, even though he wasn't even mentioned them once. That wasn't his problem. And no one is going to do a movie in 20, 30 years about how Obama was far worse than Nixon. The double standards from these people is just shocking sometimes.
Well, in fact, their timing is really bad because on the one hand, they're celebrating the fact that the Post and the New York Times courageously published classified information when we want, at the same time, to send Julian Assange to jail for publishing classified information. It's what journalists do. Even the Obama administration concluded that if you prosecuted Assange, you'd have to prosecute every journalist in America and every major newspaper.
Whoa, liberals have double standards, Roger? Wow, I didn't even realize that. Thank you for enlightening me on that.
Pretty amazing.
I want to get both of your opinions on something here as we close this segment, though. What happened with this portrait? Was this an intentional move from Obama? Did he say, look, I want you to make this an abomination. I want you to make this as quirky as possible. I want you to make me stick out. Do whatever you got to do. Just, you know, go ahead and put your little sperm on there. Do the little 6-finger deal, whatever you got to do. And it was like, okay, so that was the deal. You know, he obviously knew that this artist drew depictions of black women decapitating white women. Or did the artist kind of take it upon himself to make it all about him? Was this an artist move to say, oh, I'm going to make this about me. I'm going to make it quirky. I'm going to put my little, you know, footnote on this and everything. What do you think was the deal here, Rogers? Was this more an Obama call, or did the artist take it into his own hands?
Oh, and I don't think you're getting it. You're just not getting it. This is hip. Don't you see that it's hip? The Obamas are endlessly...
I'm sorry, I didn't realize. What do you think, Gavin?
Kehinde Wiley's never done anything but this. His first paintings were gorgeous hunk gay thugs or thugs that he was attracted to with this floral arrangement behind them, with patterns behind them. I'm here in New York where the man is a god. You go to the Brooklyn Museum and the whole lobby is just Kehinde Wiley, Kehinde Wiley. He's royalty here. So there's no way you commission a portrait from Wiley and not know that you're going to be subsumed by the background. That's That's the way this guy paints. And I think he chose Wiley, by the way, because they were both abandoned by their African fathers, and they both worship Africa and put it way before America with their African prints all over the place. So Barack Obama and his love for the third world and Wiley's obsession with Africa are both intertangled. They both show that when you abandon a child, he will prefer the East to the West. And that painting symbolized that. This painting says, I want to separate myself from all the other presidents and subsequently separate myself from America. I'm not like you. I'm better. That's really a subtext here. I'm better.
I have a feeling that that portrait isn't going to be around long. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling I have that that portrait isn't going to be around long. I think that it might be scrubbed, just like Obama's legacy.
As you know, the portraits of Nixon and Agnew are both put in storage. I have a feeling this one may be ultimately headed to the same place.
Storage and incinerator.
Particularly if Obama is ultimately prosecuted, because the real question of the day, as you know, is what did the president know about the spying on Donald Trump, and when did he know it? Because no person is above the law.
Is that Obama pointing at his 6th finger, Gavin? Is that what we just saw there? Is that... Hold on.
Isn't
That's
it funny how bad they are at all this? Like, they're bad at choosing an artist. They get a guy who wants to decapitate white people. They didn't even Google him first. And then they do this Russia collusion crap. They're so half-assed about it, leaving a paper trail everywhere they go. We got Anthony Weiner leaving his computer open in front of a prostitute. Like, not only these people want to be Machiavellian, but they're more like lost children.
All right, that's Gavin McGinnis. We'll be right back. $1.50. $1.50. $1.50. That's how much I'd pay for Obama's portrait.
Oh, and you're overpaying.
You think?
This is garbage. I mean, this is just pop culture garbage.
$1.50, Gavin. What, is that overpriced? $1.50 for Obama's portrait?
Yeah, I think that's a little rich. Maybe $1.
I mean, a roll of toilet paper costs, $1.
Well, the problem with buying art is,
more
unless you're an art dealer, you got to have this up in your house. You have to look at it every day. It's just going to make you mad.
Well, you've got, Get Off My Lawn with Gavin McGinnis. That's the name of your show. Obama's permanently implanted on your lawn now.
Yeah, he really is.
He's permanently entrenched.
It's just, I did my whole show on it, by the way, for tonight, because the whole thing just sums up all of this animosity, all this needless racism, all this needless division that goes on in the States, and the amount of, the lack of gratitude, the lack of reverence for America and tradition. And it just shows what this SJW culture has done to the country. It's made us hate each other. When this country was founded on the notion of everyone being about meritocracy. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're black, if you're white. Let's work hard and all come together. But no, they have to get these SJWs in there, needling it, trying to push us back to the civil rights, pre-civil rights era where there was hatred everywhere. That's what they want. That's where they thrive.
Yeah, and the lack of class, too. Guys, if you could actually zoom in on that picture that Gavin has pulled up or find a similar picture, because I want to get Roger Stone's take on this. Obviously, Roger, you are a fashion critique, if you will, and you like to dabble in best dressed lists. People know about this. I'd like to know your comments. First of all, to me, I'm not sure what Michelle Obama is wearing at this event, but since when do females wear navy togas? Is that a thing I'm missing?
Well, the other thing that occurred to me is that if they had put Obama in a leaf-colored suit, it would have looked like a Talking Heads album cover, which they probably thought about, at least briefly.
I want to get, guys, can we get Michelle Obama from that day on? She's wearing like a navy toga. It's a real hideous look. And then Roger, what about the suit that I've already forgotten the male artist's name. He's not, I don't even need to know his name.
Wiley.
Hende Wiley. Hende Hude. What did you think about his suit, Roger? Oh, there's the navy toga. What is that?
Yeah, that's odd. I didn't see the artist's suit, so I'm not yet in a position to put him on the worst dressed list. But
guys, let's get Hende Hude. Can we get Hude on the?
You know what Michelle Obama looks like? That dress looks like she was having an affair. And then the husband, she was having an affair with the husband. The wife came home.
And she threw a sheet over.
She ran nude behind the carpet. And then the woman found out, threw all her clothes in the garbage. And then she had to run out of the house with the curtain as her clothes, and she just sort of wrapped it around herself like Braveheart and was running through the streets trying to get shelter.
So go back one. Was that the artist on the left?
Yeah, that was him.
Okay, so he borrowed that suit from Spike Jonze, not Spike Jonze, the movie producer, Spike Jonze and the City Slickers, 1940. That's hideous.
Boy.
Today's man, I think.
Well, I'll tell you. I think
international, maybe the International Male Catalog.
I just can't believe that they put this portrait out there. Didn't they realize they just gave us a platform to make fun of Barack Obama for at least the next week, month, years even? I mean, this portrait is just a total abomination. It's the most memeable portrait that you've ever seen. We're going to be we've got a ton of memes that we're going to be covering on the War Room later with myself and Roger Stone. I mean, it's just hilarious. I want to take some calls with Gavin as well. But Gavin, just final words on the portrait, if we are willing to call it that.
You know, long ago I sat down and I prayed and I said, Lord, please make my enemies look ridiculous. And he's overdone it. God, slow down. I'm getting tired of winning. I didn't mean that ridiculous. Dial it down a notch, sir.
Yeah, he didn't want to have Obama on his lawn permanently. The name of the show is Get Off My Lawn. You just gave him a punchline for the rest of his show. There it is, Roger.
Yep, Spike Jonze. See, it's the same suit.
That suit's actually maybe a little better looking. I can't tell, it's not in color, but at least that one doesn't seem to be. Oh boy. Oh, goodness. That's like from The Nightmare Before Christmas, what Hyundai Houday has on. The Nightmare Before Christmas. Hyundai Houday from The Nightmare Before Christmas. All right, let's take a phone call. We got Roger Stone. We got Gavin McInnes on. Let's go to Fernie. Well, what do you have to say about the portrait? You have a question for Gavin, for Roger Stone. What's on your mind?
Looks like I'm going to need to contact Hyundai and Obama for my next hot dog party, since they're...
You could get $68,000 worth of succulent hot dogs with Obama.
Yeah. I thought of a new name, too, for Shift. You can call him Bafo Shift instead of for Baphomet, because, you know, they like to lie. And
that's terrible.
I kind of like Schiff for brains as a
that's much better
new appellation.
I still like piece of Schiff.
Did you see Tucker Carlson destroy the other half of the dynamic duo of dumb, Congressman Eric Swalwell, last night? Stunning piece of work. Just destroyed him.
What else on your mind, Fernie?
I originally called for the AI and like the singularity, and trying to like the slow process of ending biology or ending sciences as a means to an end to get us to believe in, you know, the fake singularity, because the real singularity, you know, I can feel it. It's crazy.
But you're talking about more the technological aspect and not the aspect of the social justice warriors now forming the LGBTQFYZ8W29er24+!9QC.
That's a part of it, too. I actually did like a small YouTube video. If you go to FERNY space 1337 on YouTube. Like, so they get into the schools, right? They break up the families. There's no friends. There's no identity. Then there's no language, no words. Then they start banning the words, and then all of a sudden you have to speak in this code where you can only speak certain words and say.
Yeah, now they're saying you can't say best friend. They already don't want you to say Merry Christmas. It's all this stuff. You know, I don't know. And I actually just thought of something else that I kind of have to actually go off on a different direction now, because I just thought of this while we have Gavin on. Hey, Gavin, were some of the members of the Proud Boys under attack at Washington University? Were those Proud Boys I saw in that video?
Yeah, they got smashed in the back of the head. They had batons.
Yeah, they tried to sneak up on them, too.
And mace. And so they came right at these boys. This was the Washington Division. And they started, as they're wont to do, fighting back. And you've never seen people more stunned. And you know what else was funny about it, too? As they're getting pounded for pepper spraying someone, one guy's like this. He got the back of his head open up. This other guy's just nailing them all. Every time they get punched, they go flying back.
Literally,
this is your first punch. Baby's first punch. and then as this is happening, there's this little girl. She's maybe like 5. I shouldn't say little girl, but small woman. And she's doing that thing that these overly empowered feminists do, where they think they can just take over the world. And they go, hey, what's going on here? What are you doing? What are you doing? And you're like, lady, you're going up to a giant man who's in a fist fight, and you're talking like you're his kindergarten teacher. What are you doing here? Get out of here. These women think they can beat up men, and they're going to get killed.
Well, that was the crazy thing about it is how, I mean, they pepper spray, and then they get hit back, and they're like, what? Why are you hitting me?
How dare you? How dare you? Gavin,
It really is the liberal ethos in a nutshell. They have this thin veneer of hubris, and when you just go plunk like that, they go, "What are you doing? Stop! Stop! We have police! Police!
F the police! Oh, police! Ah!
Get me a
That's
cop.
assault! That's assault!" They always say that.
Yeah. On my recent trip across Florida, I had a phalanx from the Proud Boys for security. It was very much appreciated. Great bunch of guys.
Well, we appreciate you, Roger. We are huge fans, and it's an honor to be in your presence because you're no a fair weather friend. I mean, you've been around for a long time. We're just rookies here, figuring it out as we go.
Well, we appreciate you, Gavin McInnes, coming on the Alex Jones Show. Now, get out of here and go get Obama off of your lawn. We'll be right back with your phone calls on the other side. Infowars is now live 10 hours a day. And in fact, actually, there is a satellite being installed here at Infowars World Headquarters today. And it's all possible with your support at InfoWarsStore.com. You've heard Alex Jones talk about it before. He wants to be live 20 hours a day by 2019. And that's only possible with your support at InfoWarsStore.com. Of course, you have brought us to this point now where we're already live 10 hours a day, reporters everywhere, going to live events, breaking news stories. We get Roger Stone to come in studio. So it's all possible with your support at InfoWarsStore.com. And we've got some new products available for you, including the new Icurin from Infowars Life. And Icurin is a great liver cleanse. The more toxins and diseases find their way into your system, the more important it is that your body's detox systems can keep up. Because your liver and kidneys are without a doubt the most important detoxifiers, it's time you took care of them like they take care of you with Icurin from Infowars Life. The liver and kidneys take care of and help filter out almost all the toxins in your body to keep you clean and healthy. With the incredibly large amount outside and dangerous toxins, we need to look after these powerful organs. With Icurin, we finally created a formula that can support your liver in cleaning your body and removing dangerous toxins by promoting healthy liver function. So take advantage of Icurin now at InfoWarsStore.com, and it's 50% off. That's an introductory rate of 50% off. So take advantage of this great liver cleansing supplement, Icurin, at InfoWarsStore.com. And don't forget about the massive discount we have on Cellforce right now, 53% off Cellforce, which is a limited time offer because, well, we're basically just going to try to sell all of it. So take advantage of this great product and this great price before it is gone. Cellforce at InfoWarsStore.com, 53% off right now. This deal is so good, we're literally undercutting ourselves. We are literally undercutting ourselves with this deal, but that's because we want you to try it before we bring up the next wave of Cellforce. So we know that you'll like this one, so you try that one, and then we bring out the next wave that's going to be even more powerful. So 53% off Cellforce at InfoWarsStore.com. We've got some callers on the line for myself and Roger Stone. Let's take care of that. Let's go to Josh in South Carolina. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Owen. So, although I sometimes question the commitment to the Infowar of some of the guests Alex has on and even some of the guest hosts, nobody can ever question your commitment, Road Warrior Owen. You've shown the fruits of your labor out there, getting shouted down, getting pushed around, and even getting spit on. So bravo for that. And I originally called to talk with Alex, 15-year listener. Since Road to Tyranny never got the chance to speak with him. But since you have Roger Stone in there, I'm going to switch gears to him. I have a request and a question. But first, I just wanted to say, around my house at 8 p.m., it's Tucker time. That's because I sit the family around the TV. We watch Tucker Carlson as he takes on all the libtards like Adam Schiffhead and Eric Swallowswell. But I got to say, whenever he mentions Alex Jones's name, it's always in a negative. It's always tinfoil hat or conspiracy theory or something like that. I'm really getting annoyed with it because Tucker Carlson, believe it or not, should thank Alex Jones, because if it wasn't for him having him on, that time a couple of years ago for an hour long.
Yeah, he was in studio here.
Yeah. People would not know Tucker, and he would not be in the position he's in. And I know he's listening because he goes on and he repeats a lot of stuff that he hears on here. So Tucker, if you're going to say his name, be positive or just keep his name out of your mouth because people like me are getting tired of it. Now, Roger Stone, first a request, because I know you have the president's ear. Please have him lift the ban on Cubans coming into our country. I think we need to do everything we can to undermine communism in this hemisphere. It would go a long way for diplomacy, certainly for the current Cubans living here. We need all the good Cubans we have here. My wife is a beautiful, smart Cuban who escaped through Venezuela and is very thankful to be here, but she has many family members who would love to trade places with a bunch of the socialists here. So, people out there who want to vote Bernie Sanders, I say we just trade and let them trade spots with them.
No, that's actually, I've actually literally suggested that before. Trump offered, say, hey, if you want to leave the country, okay, here, pick your country, we'll send you there. But actually, I want to hear Roger. Let's let Roger respond to not only the Tucker Carlson points, but if you wanted to comment as well on the Cuban thing.
Let's take them one at a time. The irony of this, of course, is, and I happen to know this for an absolute fact, Tucker Carlson really likes Alex Jones, and he respects him. So I don't think he says these things with any animosity. That said, I think the brass at Fox have a general order that no one is allowed to go on Infowars. Why? They view us as competition, even though we don't view them as competition. We view them as comrades in the greater fight for freedom. As for your Cuba point, I am also married to a beautiful, accomplished Cuban woman. I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, that's great, but I believe I probably caught every episode, and I certainly saw you on there. You had a great appearance on there, but whenever he mentions Alex Jones, it's always tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory.
Well, and I'll just say, too, to me, it's like the same thing that happened to Matt Gaetz when he got set up on CNN by Jake Tapper, who Matt Gaetz just unloads a litany of facts about the Clinton paid-for dossier and everything, and then Jake Tapper says, yeah, well, you went on the Alex Jones show, as if that somehow discounts all the facts that he just laid out. And Matt Gaetz was like, look, I don't agree with Alex on everything, but hey, he's got an audience. He's a real person. Why can't I talk to him?
Yeah, I guess, when you go on CNN, does that mean you agree with everything that Jake Tapper or Wolf Blitzer say? Of course not. We're a news network here. We have guests that we don't agree with on everything, but they're interesting, they're newsworthy, and they have a point of view, which is why we bring them here.
I guess I would say this to you, Josh. If Fox or Tucker or anyone, and I have no beef with Tucker or Matt Gaetz if they want to talk trash on Infowars, because I don't think they believe it at the end of the day. I think they agree with the things we say, and they probably like us. But if that's what they do or that's what they have to do or whatever the case is, then that's fine, because that only draws more people to us at the end of the day, because we're not getting involved with infighting with Tucker or Fox or Matt Gaetz or anyone. We like what they do, and we will support them as long as they support America. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Look, Tucker has been so devastating in his handling of both Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, as in, don't Swalwell that, it's covered in Schiff. That you gotta love it. You just got to.
All right, Josh, thank you so much for the call. I got to move on, though. Let's go to CJ in Rhode Island. Go ahead, CJ.
Thank you. So today, I really do want to get into these subjects, the overturning of the presidential election. I think they're going to arrest Trump's ex and current White House aides. I do have a lead on the assassination of President Trump. And before you say, I'm sure you do, just hear me out. And I think when they do overturn the presidential election, I think Obama's going to run for a third term in that new election. When
I have to be honest, CJ, you're sounding crazy to me.
Well, I mean, you can think that if you want, but...
Well, I think you were on track there, but for the last point. I wrote a piece for Infowars a couple weeks ago where I basically said the establishment has Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. Plan A was the Electoral College and the recount. It failed. Plan B is the Russian collusion dilution. It's failing. Plan C is the 25th Amendment. Plan D,
There was probably another plan in there, too, with the Me Too movement as well. I think that was another plan, too.
Good point.
Yeah.
So, but the point, of course, is that we have had 2 presidents deposed, one in a violent coup, one in a peaceful but legal coup. And you cannot underestimate the deep enmity that the political establishment and the elites of both parties have for Donald Trump, and their resolve to do exactly what you say, to undo what they couldn't do at the ballot box, undo the results of the last election.
And I'll just say this to you, CJ, and we'll let you finish it off. I was saying it sounded crazy having Obama for a 3rd term. I don't see that ever happening at all. Maybe trying to put Hillary in there or electing someone else. But my thing with the assassination is, and I don't know what lead you claim you have a lead on that, I do believe that there was a lead and that they have text messages, perhaps even from FBI agents, talking about a political assassination or the assassination of Trump. And those aren't even on the burner phones or the ham radios that these people were using to communicate as well. So that's my thing. I think Trump has an ace card in that if they do try to assassinate Trump, they already know who's going to be guilty because they have the text. Go ahead, CJ.
Well, the Obama 3rd term thing, he said he wanted to run in December 2016. He went on the Axe Files radio program and he said...
Yeah, Obama also didn't say you build a business. I mean, since when do you believe a word Obama says?
Well, also there's you need a constitutional change even for him to run, which is why he would just insert Michelle. Oh, wait a minute, hasn't been a U.S. citizen long enough to be eligible.
Oh,
little problem there.
Funny how that works. Thank you for the call, CJ. We're going to be joined by Paul Joseph Watson on the other side of the Alex Jones Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I think what shocks me, Roger, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me as much sometimes. I guess it depends on the day. But it shocks me that you have 2 networks that are completely devoted to just lying about Trump, slandering Trump, hating Trump, and that's MSNBC and CNN. I mean, that's all you get all day. And so it shocks me when you have those 2 networks that's all they do, and you can't even go there without getting some sort of tripe garbage just made up to make Trump look better, demonize Trump. But then you've got the ABCs, you know, the CBSs, the NBCs. They pepper in their anti-Trump propaganda as well. And I know we're going to be covering these clips on the War Room coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. Central with yourself and I. But, I mean, has there ever been a time, obviously the media, you know, we know about Operation Mockingbird. We know about media being politicized. But has there ever been a time in your career covering politics and being involved in politics where one side of the media has not just been slanted, but just been completely fake? I mean, just lying, just will go on air every day, and it's like a competition between CNN and MSNBC. Who can tell the most egregious lie about Trump that day?
Yeah, no, these are grotesque fabrications. That's what you're seeing on MSNBC. If you watch MSNBC, and I watched this clip with Joy Reid, I think we're going to play it on the War Room later, it looks like a Saturday Night Live spoof. Nobody could really be this stupid. Nobody can really be this uninformed.
That's right.
And they just lie again and again. Joy Reid wrote, Roger Stone urged Donald Trump to end the Republican Party's longtime opposition to Russia. No, I didn't. I never said anything of the kind. Joy, why would you write that? I called on her to correct that. She declined.
Well, and this is the other thing too. We're going to play the Tucker Carlson with Eric Swalwell on the War Room later. Swalwell says something in that interview that I find shocking. He says, well, you know, because Tucker's like, look, it's been 1.5 years. Why don't you have any evidence? At least in this Republican memo, you know, we have something where we can put names to dates to circumstances to say this is how we came up with this situation, this scenario. They still have nothing to prove any collusion with Russia or Trump or anything like that. But then Swalwell says, well, Tucker, if the Republicans would let us get on with this investigation and we could interview some of the witnesses and suspects, I think we could get some information. He's talking about you.
Who have they not interviewed? They have threatened. The only person who's pled the fifth and refused to be interviewed are the officials from Fusion GPS. They're guys. Michael Caputo went, answered every question. I went, I answered every question. We weren't pleading the fifth. They have full access to anyone they want. When the BBC asked me about this, when I said on the BBC there's no evidence, they say, well, Mueller's got the evidence. No, he doesn't. He's got nothing. He's got zero. That's why we're back to the termination of Comey and Flynn as procedural issues on which they're going to try to trip the president up.
But that's why I'm just so shocked by this, that somebody like Eric Swalwell, an actual Democrat, an actual representative of this government, goes on a television show, Tucker Carlson gets watched by millions of people, and says, well, if the Republicans would cooperate and let us interview the witnesses and interview the suspects, we could get down to it. And I'm just like, that piece of shit knows that they've interviewed everybody. And I know when he's sitting there, he's thinking, I just want to interview Roger Stone. I know that he's Russian. I know he's got the details. He just won't tell me.
Well, I was in there for 4 hours under oath. Every Republican member on the committee lined up to shake my hands when it was over.
And they also questioned you.
And their questions were some of them were, they were all very tightly written, and they were all constructive, but they were the appropriate questions. Like, for example, Mr. Stone, do you know of anybody in the Trump campaign who colluded, coordinated, or conspired with the Russians to affect the outcome of the election? No, Congressman, I do not.
And again, the Democrats smashed the servers. The Democrats deleted the emails. Fusion GPS won't cooperate. And Eric Swalwell knows all of that, or he has to be the most incompetent boob in the history of politics. Or both. Probably both. Roger Stone, Owen Schroyer sign off. Paul Joseph Watson takes over till the War Room at 3 o'clock Central right here at Infowars.
We're live. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show on this February 13th edition. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to Styx Hexenhammer 666. That's his moniker. That's what he goes by. He's been on the show before. He's a YouTube commentator, and we're going to talk about YouTube censorship once again, because last week, the Wall Street Journal, which of course previously attacked, basically framed, smeared PewDiePie, a meek, mild-mannered Swede who plays video games, as a Nazi, and basically impugned all independent creators on YouTube as part of the alt-right, the far-right, to demonize us. They were out again last week with another hit piece in which they were lobbying YouTube to censor more and more people. The headline of that article was, How YouTube Drives People to the Internet's Darkest Corners. So they tried to set it up as, again, a big hit piece against anyone who dares challenge the legacy media monopoly. A couple of days later, you had the CEO of News Corp come out. Of course, News Corp owns the Wall Street Journal. Robert Thompson, he came out in an article and he called on Facebook and Google to censor, to tackle, quote, misinformation. And the reason he gave for this, in his own words, was, and we wrote an article about this for Infowars.com, the reason he gave for this was, quote, because the potential returns for our journalism, get that, the potential returns for our journalism would be far higher in a less chaotic, less debased digital environment. So he's brazenly admitting the agenda behind censoring alternative voices, aside from the political aspect, is because it would make them more money. He brazenly admitted it in an interview with AFP. Nobody picked up on that apart from us. And so you have News Corp, through all its subsidiary media outlets, and they're not alone in doing this, lobbying YouTube, lobbying Facebook, lobbying Google to censor, quote, fake news. Who's on their list of fake news? Well, what a surprise. It's Breitbart, it's Daily Caller, it's Infowars.com. These aren't fake news sites. These are conservative news sites. And we can't have alternative voices, can we? We must silence those because they want a monopoly in terms of controlling the narrative, and they want to make more money. It's very, very simple. Of course, you had Senator Mark Warner, of course, come out last week and basically call on, again, lobby YouTube to change its algorithm so they demote conservative viewpoints, conservative opinions. And basically the only reason he gave was because there were negative videos about Hillary Clinton. Well, boo-hoo. I mean, that couldn't be anything to do with the fact that, you know, she was the most corrupt and inherently unlikable presidential candidate in U.S. history. No, no, no. It must have been a conspiracy that those videos, which trashed Hillary Clinton, got promoted or did well on YouTube. I mean, they were buried under all the preferred partners that YouTube has. You know, Jimmy Kimmel can get up and talk about gun control the day after a massacre. If an independent creator tries to do it just to raise money for some of the victims, they get censored because YouTube says you can't monetize tragedies. Oh, but Jimmy Kimmel can monetize tragedies if he's shilling for gun control. Now, the reason Senator Mark Warner gave was because there were negative videos about Hillary Clinton most notably to do with Hillary's health. Well, gee, what could he be referring to? Maybe the Infowars video that we put out in, I think it was August 2016, about Hillary's bizarre behavior, which got over 6 million views by the end of it. He couldn't possibly be talking about that, could he? No. So when we talk about Hillary's health, that's fake news, that's conspiracy, that's post-truth world. Oh, but CNN and MSNBC can laboriously talk about Donald Trump's ill health, Donald Trump being mentally deranged for weeks on end. That can then be completely debunked, disproven by a physician who, by the way, was also Obama's physician, and they will still talk about it as if it's a real news story after it's been debunked. But if we talk about Hillary Clinton's health, oh, that's fake news, and it's a threat, not only to democracy. They had a BuzzFeed article yesterday which said fake news, bearing in mind fake news was a contrived moral panic, a hoax, created by the establishment because they were so panicked at the fact that they were losing the ability to manufacture consent. But there was a BuzzFeed article yesterday where they said fake news was not only a threat to democracy, it was a threat to Western civilization. So their opinions, their metropolitan elitist bubble control of the narrative being threatened is a threat to Western civilization. No, it's a threat to you and your agenda failing. That's what it's all about, and that's why you're trying to censor us. So you've got senators calling for it. You have the mainstream legacy media, News Corp, Wall Street Journal, lobbying for YouTube, lobbying for Google and Facebook to demote conservative voices, conservative content on the internet to make it not appear in your feed. And as Matt Drudge warned years ago on this show, when those social media environments become internet ghettos, that's where all the content is. That's where it gets monopolized. Then that's the battlefield. You have to be on it. There you see the Wall Street Journal article from last week. So there's this huge lobbying campaign. They're going to resurrect this fake news hoax, even though it collapsed basically at the start of last year. Remember the big Washington Post expose where they used biased left-wing outlets to compile their fake news list? We have Google. Have you ever noticed now on Google, you search for a topic, the top results are always Snopes.com. Snopes.com is the most biased far-left organization imaginable. The furthest you could possibly imagine from non-partisan, from neutral. The furthest possible. They've got scandal on top of scandal coming out of that news outlet, if you can call it that. They put out debunking articles. I mean, I'll give you an example. There was a quote by somebody close to Hillary Clinton last year during the election. We wrote about this, where he was saying something about the establishment controlling the narrative. Snopes.com took that quote, which was a direct quote, which we wrote up and put it in an article. And they basically came out and said, oh, no, he didn't mean to say this. He meant to say something completely different. And so they made up a quote for this globalist, basically. They contacted him and he said, no, that's not what I meant. This is actually what I meant. And they just invented a completely new quote and said, oh, this debunks you because now he's saying this. Was the original quote accurate? Was it genuine? Yes. But they just completely made up their own fake news to try and debunk our fake news. The most biased far-left organization you can imagine. People have gone through the roster of their employees. Far, far left. These are not neutral people, yet now they're the ones in charge of filtering all this, quote, fake news. And that's exactly why you're seeing Snopes.com at the top of Google search results on basically every hot button political topic right now. They're trying to game the internet to mass social engineer, to mass manipulate the population before the 2018 midterms. This is coming down hard. Now, in relation to this, Salon.com, which is also lobbying Google, lobbying Facebook to censor what they call toxic news outlets, given that this is an organization that literally gave a platform to a pedophile on several occasions. Now they're lecturing Google and Facebook about which toxic publications should be censored. Salon.com's actually introduced something on their website where if you go on their website and you're using an ad blocker, I tweeted about this earlier, it pops up with a pop-up ad and says, we've noticed you're using an ad blocker. Now, it gives you the option, if you want to view Salon.com, why anyone would want to, I don't know, but this just shows their desperation. You have to either disable the ad blocker to continue to the website, or you have to allow Salon.com to use your CPU computing power in the background to mine Bitcoin for them. Who in their right mind would do that? Have you ever had like a pop-up ad or a pop-up video that plays when you're trying to read the news on a website? Or it just completely overwhelms your processing power if you've got like 10 tabs open at once. That's annoying. There's nothing more annoying than that. Now Salon.com is forcing its readers, if they've got an ad blocker, into this program where their computer in the background whirs away to mine Bitcoin for Salon.com because Salon.com is going out of business. There was an article in the New York Post last year, Salon struggling to pay its rent. They're basically getting kicked out of their New York offices almost. They're not getting enough advertising money. So now they're making their readers mine Bitcoin for them, hogging all their CPU space. How annoying is that? And now they're lobbying YouTube, Google, Facebook to censor alternative, independent voices. We'll get back into it more after the break. This is the Alex Jones Show, live breaking news at Infowars.com. Don't go away. We are live back on the Alex Jones Show. Before the break, I was talking about the mainstream media, News Corp, lobbying to have Google, to have Facebook, to have YouTube censor Infowars.com because we're fake news. Who else is on the fake news list? Oh, it's every other conservative website. Do you think there's a possibly a chance that they're using this contrived moral panic over fake news to censor their opposition? Do you think that's possible for a second here? Let's think about that. Before we get back into that, though, I want to tell you how you can support Infowars.com, as we are under constant assault on a daily basis, by getting the products at InfowarsStore.com. Right now, we have Infowars Life, iCure, and combo packs and more. Specials available right now. We're running out of time to keep giving you these incredible specials. Our combo packs won't last long, and our new products are quickly running out of stock. So make sure you pick up some of these massive discounts right now at InfowarsStore.com. We have the iCure and introductory sale, 50% off. Cellforce, 53% off. The Infowars Life Daily Digestive Pack, Carnivore and Floral Life for 50% off. We also have the Infowars Life His and Hers Pack, which is Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality for 40% off, and many more, including Pollen Block at 50% off. We've also got the new product Bodies, which I've started using, which is absolutely fantastic. You go and read the reviews up on InfowarsStore.com for Bodies, which is a whole body support. It reduces inflammatory problems. You look at those reviews and people are raving about it, saying it's the best turmeric ever. People with joint pains and aches are really starting to have their pain relieved very quickly after taking this product. Numerous 5-star reviews. In fact, there are barely any under 5-star up on InfowarsStore.com for Bodies, which is the turmeric product. It's also proven, although we don't claim this, we're just talking about the inflammatory benefits to reduce body pain and ache pain. It's also proven in scientific studies to improve mood. That's well known. That's the main reason why people take it, actually. We're not even bragging about that. And if you read the actual reviews at InfowarsStore.com, people are really raving about it, saying that it's reduced their joint pain and really given them a lot of pleasure, given that they were in pain. And that's, this has only been out, about 2 weeks now? People are raving about it. It's available right now. You get $10 off. It's up for $49.95. You get 120 capsules in this big bottle, so that will last you a while. And it's available right now at InfowarsStore.com. It is Bodies Whole Body Support. Please support us. We're under constant attack, not just through people smearing us and calling us every name under the sun, which has happened for, basically the entire lifetime of our existence, but now openly lobbying Google to demote us, openly lobbying YouTube to have their algorithm demote us, so our videos don't show up when people search for certain hot news topics on all these mainstream media channels, which are, by the way, completely pathetic and failing. Nobody's interested. There was an MTV News video last week, which I highlighted on Twitter. This is MTV, right? Fairly big company, you would imagine, Viacom and all that. It had like 200 views. Like, I get 200 views on a video 10 seconds after uploading it. This video had been up a week. It had 200 views. You look on the comments, you look on the downvotes. They're getting completely decimated by the strength of their arguments because they have no arguments left. Their only argument for the past 5+ years is to call everyone else a racist. When you do that, when you don't develop your own arguments, you lose the strength, like a muscle that you don't use. It goes flaccid, it goes weak. That's all they've had for the best part of 5 years plus. Now they have no arguments left. They're just saying, oh, let's just censor those people who oppose us ideologically. And that's exactly what's happening. Now with Salon.com lobbying YouTube and Facebook and Google and Twitter to do exactly that, to silence alternative voices simply because they can't afford to pay the bills because they don't resonate with anyone. You give a platform to a pedophile, for God's sake, you're not going to resonate with a lot of people. Not a great PR look, is it? Salon.com. Absolutely incredible. They're going out of business. They can't even afford their rent. They're getting turfed out. Now they got an article up called Pioneers of Fake News, Can WorldNet Daily Be Saved? Where again, they brag about how Facebook and Google are now demoting these websites simply because they're conservative. They go through the entire list. It's the usual suspects, Breitbart, Infowar, Daily Caller. These are not fake news websites. There are actual fake news websites. They just happen to call fake news websites every single website right of center. Oh, gee, isn't that a coincidence? Let's move on now to some more global news. This is up on Infowars.com. Criminologist says Italian teen butchered by Nigerian migrant could have been eaten. Some cultures are better than others. Now, of course, we had this story a couple of weeks back. This happened in January. An 18-year-old Italian girl was murdered and dismembered by a Nigerian migrant who, by the way, was living in Italy on an expired visa, was about to be deported. They're now saying she could also have been the victim of cannibalism, that coming from a top professor and criminologist who said that the murder bears the hallmarks of, quote, methods that the Nigerian mafia applies systematically in Nigeria and elsewhere. So they're saying because parts of her body, including parts of her genitals and her heart, were not found, that this could have been some kind of Nigerian mafia cannibalist ritual. He says it's an ancestral rite that goes back to ancient times, and that the victim, this 18-year-old girl, may have been partially eaten. Even the defense lawyer for one of these accomplices alleged to have been involved in covering up this murder, or at least disposing of the body, also suggested that the murder could have been part of a voodoo-style ritual. We've seen that even in America, where the victim is dismembered in order to obtain spiritual power. So this could have been part of some bizarre ritual, not just a straightforward murder. They're saying that the girl was basically hit with a blunt object. She collapsed, she died. So this wasn't a drug overdose, as some claimed. And given all that, given what's happening in Italy and some of those ports where they're having an onrush of migrants from Greece and other areas, from Libya, of course, is it any surprise that with the upcoming Italian election, 65% of Italians under the age of 35 are against mass migration? They've got an election on March the 4th. The guy who's tipped to win it, or at least enter into a coalition with another conservative party, Silvio Berlusconi's party, the guy who's tipped to win it and go into a coalition, Matteo Salvini, he's promised to deport 500,000 illegal immigrants and secure the country's borders. So is it any surprise that he's in pole position to win, given what's happening in Italy? You actually had a revenge shooting in Italy as well last week, where somebody went out and tried to assassinate, tried to shoot at people who he thought were involved in the murder and the butchering of this girl. Of course, that was the big media story, like racist shooting targets, black Italians or whatever. They didn't even focus on what motivated that. So that's the radicalization process now, because Italy is being overwhelmed. You're now getting reprisal attacks against migrants, many of whom are going to be innocent of doing anything. So it's all escalating in a horrible direction. And that is why it looks like Italy is about to install a government that's going to actually do something about it. We'll be back with our guest, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, in the next segment. This is the Alex Jones Show live, Infowars.com. We'll be back. Stay there. We're live. It is the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show, and I'm joined by my guest for his second appearance on the show. It's one of my favorite YouTube commentators. Now, his real name is quite difficult to pronounce and remember, so we're going to ignore that and just call him by his moniker, which is how everyone knows him, which is Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666. Sticks, welcome back.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, we're here to talk about YouTube censorship once again. Now, basically across the board, and I talked about this just before the break, we got these leftist media establishments, these legacy media establishments. They've lost the argument. Their articles get completely decimated in comment sections, you know, if they even dare have comment sections at all. So instead of reevaluating these arguments to see why they're no longer resonating with people, they've decided instead to simply lobby for the censorship of opposing voices. We saw this with a fake news panic back at the end of 2016. That kind of got extinguished. They're now trying to bring it back. I talked about an article out of Salon where they're lobbying Facebook, Google, YouTube to censor, quote, fake news websites. You check the list of fake news websites. Oh, look, it's every conservative news website on the internet. What a coincidence that is, right? So we had this Wall Street Journal article last week. Now, they already attacked PewDiePie. They already attacked independent content creators. It was called, and we can flash this article up on screen, How YouTube Drives People to the Internet's Darkest Corners. Dun, dun, dun. So they frame it in this dark, kind of foreboding context. This is not the first time they've gone after independent YouTubers. Sticks, what was the purpose behind this latest Wall Street Journal hit piece? Break it down.
Well, this was apparently the same individual who also was writing about PewDiePie beforehand. He's going off to the New York Times. So these groups, they tend to share their talent, so-called. I thought it was funny, though, in reading it, it doesn't even really mention why, you know, you're fake news or I'm fake news or BP Earthwatch or anyone else. It just simply states that we are. I think that the hope generally is that the sort of people who take the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whatever seriously, they're not going to look too deeply into it. They're not part of YouTube culture. They don't understand, you know, that there is independent analysis. They don't necessarily even care about that sort of thing because they've been taught that because somebody makes millions and millions of dollars wearing a suit and being on cable, that makes them trustworthy. Anybody else, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they are. They automatically cannot be trusted. I would say that the anti-war front, therefore, is very much like anti-censorship movement. It's very much like independent commentary in general, the new rise of blood sports. And they're terrified because they're losing money. They're losing audience to people like you and I.
And they're really bad at YouTube. Let's face it. That's what it boils down to. It takes a lot of hard work to actually establish a beachhead on YouTube. It takes skill, it takes experience to know what kind of headlines to use, to know what kind of thumbnails to use, to know what content to talk about. They absolutely suck at it across the board. I mentioned just before the break, there was an MTV News video from like a couple of weeks ago. It had been up a couple of weeks. It had 200 views. I mean, for God's sake, I upload a video, I get 200 views in like 10 seconds. And that's why they hate us. I mean, there was a New York Times article last year where I joked, oh, YouTube is becoming a safe space for right-wingers. And that seems to be the point where they really started freaking out about it. Now we got this entire contrived moral panic. We had Mark Warner, a senator, again last week, calling for YouTube to change its algorithm because there were negative videos about Hillary Clinton. God forbid. Do you think, Sticks, that that's got anything to do with the fact that she was the most corrupt and unlikable presidential candidate in history? Or is it a big conspiracy that YouTube needs to fix?
Oh, it goes beyond just Hillary Clinton. It goes to the establishment at large. She's just one part of it, a big part, one of the worst, slimiest, most outdated, crazy parts, but it goes well beyond her. It's Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, it's the John McCains, and people within the Republican Party, too. And it's also, it's not just U.S., it's also people in foreign countries as well. Definitely, it would go to the establishments that we see in Western Europe. Angela Merkel would probably be #1 on there. Maybe the Macrons and other individuals within France, within the UK, all over the world. We've got people who want us to die for their money, who don't want us to speak freely, and who, quite frankly, I think, lack the talent necessary to really make it in the online world, where it isn't just about having a cat teeth and a hair plug and a mega corporation, a multinational with billions of dollars behind you. It actually requires some degree of talent, some degree of originality. That's something that they never had to have. They haven't had that since the 1940s or 50s for the most part.
Well, yeah, it's harder to make a good YouTube video that resonates with people than it is to put out a snarky tweet as a verified liberal, which is what they seem to think is important. It's not really that important anymore. It's not really resonating with the younger generation. So, I mean, the old cliche, you know, get good. They don't seem to grasp that. So they want to artificially push everyone else down to lift themselves up, which is why we have now YouTube announcing, oh, we're going to put, you know, mainstream content at the top of search results on any hot breaking news topic. So they're starting to introduce this algorithm which punishes interesting people and rewards boring people like the people who work for the Wall Street Journal. Now, the CEO of News Corp came out last week, again, Robert Thompson, which, by the way, owns the Wall Street Journal, of course. He called on Google and Facebook to censor, quote, misinformation, that was his word, because in his own words, I'll read this quote to you, the potential returns for our journalism, get that again, the potential returns for our journalism would be far higher in a less chaotic, less debased digital environment. So, Sticks, does that sound like they genuinely want to eradicate misinformation, or does it sound like they want to make more money by eliminating their competition?
They only want to eliminate misinformation that goes against their misinformation. They want to be the only ones who are allowed to make propaganda and spread fake news. Ultimately, these groups, though, they've coalesced together to the point at which even some groups that are kind of conservative in form and function are working for the establishment. They're really part of the same group, and it's ultimately about attacking two groups of people: totally independent content creators and off-hook groups that are totally independent. They might be businesses, like Infowars is a business, but it's independent. It doesn't take its marching orders from some group it's a multinational, multi-billion-dollar firm. Then you've got individuals who do their own independent analysis as well. Both of those are grave threats to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be attacking them. And the Wall Street Journal is one of the worst of all. It should get the award. When Donald Trump didn't give them the #1 award for fake news, it was almost a little bit of a letdown, to tell the truth.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, some of these social justice outfits tend to do actually quite well on Facebook in terms of views from what I've seen recently. But again, they're getting completely owned and decimated in the comments. This trend is really increased, intensified from my perspective over the past 6 months, definitely, where you go on a viral video that's gone viral because it's absolutely incredibly stupid. Like, for example, there was a Vice show about a black girl, a black supremacist, basically saying white people shouldn't be able to, you know, have passports or travel because she's a racist, and Vice is giving her a platform because essentially they're a racist news outlet. You go on the YouTube, you go on the Facebook video, thumbs down to infinity, getting trashed in the comments. They're losing the argument, so they're having to censor alternative. And what is this stuff, Sticks, in the final minute of this segment? Why are they censoring 1930s music? What's going on there?
Apparently they feel threatened by it, and it's branched out well beyond just political commentary. You'll look, Rotten Tomatoes, which is just entertainment, has nothing to do with politics. They're doing exactly the same thing. The little people don't have the right to speak unless they're speaking in a certain way. It's sort of like you have the right to vote. You have the right to vote Ja for Hitler or something along those lines. It's not even really that much of a surprise because it boils down to money, but it has become a problem. Ultimately, I think they fail in the long term. Short term, they have certainly the upper hand over people like us. We have less money.
All right, we're going to continue, Sticks, in the next segment. This is the Alex Jones Show live, breaking news at Infowars.com. Going to go on to talk about how they're now censoring these prank videos. Again, another contrived moral panic over that, which will eventually be used to censor and punish other people. We'll talk about it after the break with Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666. Don't go away. We'll be back. We're back with Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666. We're talking about YouTube censorship. We're talking about fake news. You know, most people don't remember that back in December 2016, the Washington Post had to basically retract their list of fake news websites because it was based on a list compiled by this far-left biased organization, Prop or Not. It was not an impartial summary of fake news, and they've used this buzzword, they've used this post-truth world moniker ever since the election, again, because they're in a blind panic that they no longer have the power to control the narrative. In fact, there was a BuzzFeed article, Sticks, yesterday, and this was by Charlie Warzel, who's not a bad guy, but then he tried to mischaracterize what I said about it on Twitter. I invited him to come on the show and talk about it, and imagine my shock, no response whatsoever. But he talked to a senior government employee who's tasked with studying misinformation, who told him that, quote, they're expecting for the future a situation where misinformation is, quote, a direct threat to the foundations of our current civilization. Now, that doesn't sound hysterical at all. He's saying that information which disagrees with the prevailing establishment narrative is a threat to civilization. Do you think it's actually just a threat to their metropolitan, globalist, elite narrative control system? Is that maybe more likely the scenario we've got here?
Yeah, well, globalist misinformation is a threat to civilization. They're trying constantly to destroy liberty. They're trying constantly to destroy, anything that advances progress in the realm of human thinking. The idea maybe 20 or 30 years ago of this many people having this large an audience speaking instantaneously across the internet was, it wasn't even in people's wildest dreams. They really are envious, I think, of the fact that individuals that really didn't have anything to begin with have capitalized upon that and sometimes have millions of fans. They want in, they want their slice of the pie, they want their money. And so if they can propagandize BuzzFeed, it would be hard to think of a group other than the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, a few of these groups, that's less honest than BuzzFeed. They get away with it only because they have their own audience. But I mean, honestly, their audience ultimately is small compared to like Infowars. They've got a very small audience. It's very funny to see them complain because oftentimes these groups, they're in decline. They're not even growing. They're losing their fans. They're not really able to branch out onto YouTube. CNN's had problems, MTV News, all of these old juggernauts of the legacy media, they have problems really dealing with the tech era.
And a little bit rich of BuzzFeed to accuse me of fake news, given that they were behind the biggest fake news story of last year, the Trump P-Gate dossier, which other organizations who hated Trump didn't even run with because they knew it was phony. But that's what they're saying now. They're still on this jag about fake news. Oh, by the way, my YouTube channel, the past 11 videos have been demonetized. I think that's a new record for me personally. I'm going for 12 with this video, so we'll see if that happens. But we've seen another contrived moral panic sticks in terms of YouTube on top of the, extremist content panic, which is prank videos. We've had prank videos on YouTube for 10 years or more. People have been doing stupid things. Logan Paul's been an idiot for quite a while now. It's not a great revelation. That's been happening on YouTube basically since its inception. But now suddenly, Sticks, prank videos are this huge societal problem, and YouTube has announced more measures to punish harmful content, they say, as a result. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they've all of this stuff's been on YouTube since day one. Bum fights, Tourette's guy. There were videos literally of people just swearing and doing crazy stuff like Jackass. We remember Jackass from the 1990s. It's really no different. It's no different than maybe Howard Stern when he was still being edgy. The difference is this time it's not being made by an individual or a show, a small group, a very centralized system. They're not the ones making the edgy content. Now the edgy content is being made by a million different individuals. Oh, well, it becomes a lot harder to stop it. That's ultimately why they're worried. It's the same moral argument for a different generation. It's the same boring individuals making that stupid argument. It's just that it's directed now at, literally a large proportion of the entire YouTube base. I can remember when I first got to YouTube, a lot of the viral content was really out there grindcore videos whose titles would make your toes curl. And that was a big thing at the time. Hundreds of thousands of people, which was a lot back then in 2007, would pile onto these videos to sort of be titillated by these weird titles and these weird images and this strange music that at the time was novel. Imagine if the same logic used today by the moralists was applied back in the 90s or the 2000s. They would be saying, you would have the left saying, no, we can't have Jackass, we can't have heavy metal, we can't have, this pop band is too out there, too risque for us, it's too cisnormative, and it would be terrible. I mean, we wouldn't have culture at all, there wouldn't be anything fun. No fun music, no fun videos, no fun independent content. If people want to maintain that, they've got to start fighting back against the censorship.
Everything is flipped. I mean, the left truly are the new Puritans, completely. If two people make a complaint about an advertisement or whatever in this country, it gets shut down, it gets banned. It's incredible how sensitive they are. Final question, though, and we'll tell people how they can find your channel, is the common refrain. YouTube's a private company. It can censor who it likes. How do you respond to that, Sticks?
Well, then a private company should be able to deny service of any kind to any person. That would cause so many problems. It wouldn't be pragmatic for our civilization. If they're pretending that they want to maintain Western civilization, maintain order, people should be nice and tolerant, well, then you've got to tolerate viewpoints that you find offensive. Most of those being censored or who are worried about being censored, ultimately, at the end of the day, they're not your enemy. They're not going to start a new Nazi party. They're not jackboots. They're not trying to crush skulls. They're simply trying to tell a bad joke or do something that's, you know, funny to them, and it's kind of out there and crude. But that's been happening for a million years. And if you applied the same morality that's being applied to these sort of individuals today to something from 20 years ago, the same would be the case. It would ultimately be a fool's errand to try to police morality. And 10 years from now, the stuff that they're calling edgy probably won't be considered edgy.
So you don't think that we're at a point now where Google is such a monopoly that it needs some kind of regulation, that it needs to be incorporated in some kind of new Telecommunications Act, simply to protect freedom of speech, given that it's reached a point, it's grown so much, that Google basically is the internet for a lot of people at this point? You don't think we should go to that level of actual regulation?
I'm hesitant to say that. I think that something needs to be done. I prefer a constitutional amendment that doesn't just apply to Google or the big tech firms. It applies to all tech firms so that it's even-handed. It allows competition to continue. Failing that, though, at least temporarily, you're right, we may have no other choice but to relegate Google and some of these other big firms. Facebook probably not, because it's dying anyway, and you know, a couple of years from now, no one will care who Zuckerberg is. He'll be like homeless. Other than that, though, Twitter and YouTube certainly is the big ones. They might need to be relegated to public utility status.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Just tell people how they can find your channel and when they can find you on Twitter.
They can look up Stix666 Official on Twitter or on Gab, Stix Hexenhammer on Minds.com, and of course, Stix Hexenhammer 666 on YouTube, as well as many other sites.
I'll be sure to include those links in the description below when this goes up on YouTube. Stix, thanks for joining us. Pleasure.
It was my pleasure.
There he goes, one of my favorite YouTube commentators, Stix Hexenhammer 666. I'm going to get into a few final news stories here. We've got a couple of minutes left. Germany, Syrian refugee throws dog out of window because he was annoyed by it. Oh, the cultural enrichment just continues. A 27-year-old Syrian refugee killed a dog by throwing it out of a third-floor window because he was annoyed by its presence, according to a report out of Germany. Now, if you watch videos of Muslim taxi drivers in the UK, in other European countries, in fact, I saw it with my own eyes about 2 months ago, this hipster couple with a tiny dog trying to get a cab to go somewhere. No, 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 no. No dogs allowed. Animals are mistreated in Islam. In fact, I quote a veterinary surgeon, Dr. Ayub Bandaka, who said, quote, animal abuse, cruelty, and or neglect. There you see one of the videos of the Muslim cab driver refusing service because they have a dog. He says, animal abuse, cruelty, and or neglect form part of the many social ills plaguing the Muslim community. And Muslims, by and large, do not even like to touch dogs. Now, we're not saying that all Muslims want to torture and kill dogs, but this is an increasing problem. In the article, I cite another example out of Vienna, where a middle-aged woman was walking her dogs in the park. She was attacked by a veiled Somali migrant. There you see the dog that unfortunately died in Germany after being thrown out of a window. So they attacked this woman in a Vienna park and said to her face, the animals are unclean, while the woman's husband told the middle-aged woman who was attacked, we don't want dogs, they are filthy. We've had razor blades being found in dog food in Germany. This is an increasing problem. We're importing people who mistreat animals, and some cultures are better than others. That's going to wrap it up for the Alex Jones Show. But coming up live is War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone. Don't go away, Infowars.com.
This program contains language and sequences some viewers may find disturbing.
The nation and all of our freedoms hang by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum who are beholden to scum, Russian scum.
Listen, please listen. If you don't, if you won't, if you fail to understand, then the same incredible terror that's menacing me will strike at you!
The function of all life is survival. Sleep.
Sleep. Sleep.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Lock the door. Lock the door.
They're coming! They're coming! Help! Help! They're coming! They're coming! Listen to me! Listen! Help me! You're next, please! Please! You're next! They're in danger! Please, listen to me! Something terrible! Please! You're next! Here they are! They're already here! Come! You're next! They're coming! They're coming!
Sleep. The seed is planted. Sleep. Sleep. Terror grows.
Elizabeth, wake up! Get you when you sleep! Sit up!
Invasion of the body snatchers.
All of a sudden, they're growing like parasites. Is it contagious?
Trump, free all the homies.
It looked right at me. You need to get out.
You're looking at it as if it was human. It was not human.
Now, the classic fear begins to grow.
We're being cornered.
In a modern masterpiece of science fiction.
They're barricading the street.
Invasion of the body snatchers.
Land of the Walking Dead.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the Resistance. It's Alex Jones.
You know, I've got some talking points here about Caveman from InfoWarsLife.com. But instead of going with those talking points, let me just give you what I've experienced personally. From all the wives' tales in every culture, we know that the bones have the essence. We know chicken noodle soup is great for people that are sick. Again, in every culture, this has been reported because it works. And there's no way to quantify how strong this is, but the amount of bone protein and the amount of marrow and the amount of concentrated life force that is in this is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, whether it's for your joints, whether it's for your arteries and your veins, whether it's for your brain, whether it's for energy, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the strongest, most concentrated bone broth formula out there, and it's amazing. Find out for yourself today at InfoWarsStore.com what it can do for you and your family. And again, I want to thank you all for your support. You are funding the information war in 2018.